All right, thank you everyone for being here tonight. Are you ready to get started? Kara, are you ready? Awesome, thank you. All right, this public regular meeting of the Board of Education for April 14th, 2026 is called to order. All items being considered this evening are posted on the PPS website under the Board and Meetings tab. This meeting is also being streamed live on PPS YouTube page and will be replayed on channel 28. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for being here and taking your time out of your day to care about public education. Just a couple housekeeping. Again, very glad we have so many community members here. Some housekeeping issues or reminders. Just be safe. Make sure we keep the stairs and aisles clear. In case, if you brought a sign, we just ask that you hold it below chin level so people behind you can see. We also have a Spanish interpreter here this evening. If I can ask our Spanish interpreter to come up and introduce yourself in Spanish so people know where to find you in the room.
Muy buenas tardes, muchas gracias y bienvenido a estar aquí. Mi nombre es Concha Palomo y yo soy la intérprete en español.
All right, first item on the agenda is our superintendent report. I will hand this over to Superintendent Armstrong.
Thank you so much, and I think we are ready to go. Excellent. Well, good evening, and as always, look forward to bringing you a report from around the district. First, it is National Assistant Principals Week, and so just want to take a moment and acknowledge all of the work that our assistant and associate principals do across the system to lift learning and student experiences. So if we can acknowledge that, I would appreciate that. Maybe 2 claps. There we go, something like that. I appreciate that. It also is Arab American Heritage Month, and so that is something that we are celebrating this month, and just wanted to take an opportunity to lift that up. There is a theme that is established for this year, and it is Many Voices, One Community, and that definitely reflects what we strive for every day at PPS. Also want to take the opportunity to lift up that we have had our land use approved. We are in our final phase of design, and a reminder that the groundbreaking ceremony will be on May 29th. So we're just a month and a half away. That's super exciting. Equally exciting is the lighting at Grant Bowl has began, and we anticipate that completion date for the middle of May. And we are excited that that is scheduled to reduce the impacts on our athletic program. So super excited about that. Yes, 2 claps. I know, listen, I'm trying to give y'all some good news. We're going to get into, because we got lots of news happening, so let me just highlight some good ones. Another good piece of news is we're always lifting up our legacies at PPS, and you've probably heard that Jefferson Dancers the program is celebrating 50 years, and so super exciting to lift up Steve Gonzalez, the artistic director of the Jefferson Dancers. He performed with the Jefferson Dancers for 3 years, from 83 to 86, and became the artistic director in 1999. And so it's been 27 years. There's activities happening this week, so tune in. There's a calendar of events on our website, and just super excited about those amazing dancers out there and what we can certainly look forward to in the future. And here's another flyer to show those dates, the 16th through the 18th, and they will definitely shine. So it opens this Thursday, and the program will have classical ballet, African dance, contemporary dance, and much, much more woven throughout the program. Now, you also know that we also like to bring a segment called the Principal Seat. And so I'm excited to feature this month's principal. We're just going to reload that to make sure we capture sound.
My name is Alma Velasquez, and I am the principal at Jason Lee Elementary. I feel the responsibility every day to remove barriers so that people can do their best work. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning, Finn. I try to facilitate opportunities for them to really focus in on what's most important, which is our students' well-being and their learning each and every day. One of the most important things that I've learned is that what we believe about children matters. If we think that what they bring to school is a barrier for our work, that's really going to have an impact. If instead we look at them as the possibilities and the potential that they bring, it changes the whole outcome. We have to believe that we are enough, that we have enough resources to have an impact. If we focus on what we can do, instead of the forces outside our school that are out of our control, then we can make a difference. Let's think about the 6 hours that we have, that we own, that we can control. And I think maximizing that time, really giving the child all the love and courage and potential and opportunities to succeed makes the difference. It has to be about what we can do. Collaboration is my most important value. It means that we work together, that we get ideas from one another, that we are open to learning from one another. When we are excited and invested in our work and we have someone else who shares that excitement and that investment, that's where it really, we can take off. There are so many committed teachers who really want the best for kids. So we start with our values. What do we want to see? Where do we want to take our students? And then we begin to really think about the challenges that we face and figure out different creative ways of getting at them. We have been fortunate to have seen our academic data growing, our attendance data is growing, our behavior data is improving as well. I think it helps to feed our energy to continue to observe our systems and continue to see where there are gaps, where there might be students falling through the cracks, to really look at it as an entire system and make it sustainable. And I think that all the indicators right now are in a good place. And so we get encouragement from that, right? We see that our state assessment is up. We see that our district assessments are also pointing in the right direction. It feels good. And I think it's all to the work that our team is doing.
So that's congratulations to Alma Velasquez. Yes. It's a proud principal at Jason Lee Elementary. So the last thing I'll say is that if you follow us on social media, you will be reminded that the Heart of Portland will be tomorrow opening at 6:30. Doors open a little bit early. It's a huge crowd, so get there early. And you would also see that tomorrow is our Readers on the Rise district event for our Lifting Literacy campaign. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Next up, we have our student representative report. Hand it over to student representative Retorto.
Yeah, so for today's report, I'm going to be reading public comment from a Roosevelt student who was supposed to be here tonight but unfortunately could not. My name is Lily Martinez. I am a student at Roosevelt High School, and I'm having Ian Retorto read this on my behalf because unfortunately I am working tonight and cannot attend. As you all know, the district is firing teachers to accommodate the reduced budget this year. Roosevelt is one of the schools most affected by this and is losing more FTE than any school in the district. There are various reasons, but the main reason is that our schools, PPS schools, and schools all over the state of Oregon are not funded equitably or adequately by our state legislature. I am here today to tell you that we can change that. Use your voice, email your legislature and representatives, even talk to other parents with similar concerns. The revenue revenue deficit isn't only affecting our schools, but also parts of our city and state. As a student in a school that has struggled constantly to fund sports, extracurricular activities, and anything that has required a large amount of money, dealing with funding disparities has always felt important. I am a student representative on the Parent Advisory Committee, trying to advocate for students who don't have the privilege of attending a school with generational wealth. Last year, the committee, which consists of parents from every high school cluster in the district, generously donated $1 million to students across the board. While the money was supposed to be divided between our highest needs schools under the previous policy, a compromise was made to use the money to create a district-wide foundation. The first year of the PAC was a tremendous success. They were able to use the money to fund high-impact tutoring programs, food pantries, and strategic investing. All that they were able to achieve was because of the donations they received. This year, the schools are looking at a $50 million budget cut. More than ever, donations to the district-wide fund are paramount to ensuring the best possible education for students across PPS. Any possible donation to the fund would be graciously appreciated and extremely helpful. The current funding issues we are undergoing have nothing to do with the foundation reform that occurred 2 years ago with a 1-year grace period. PPS and other districts' funding problems have to do with Oregon's broken tax system and the failure of our legislators to prioritize public education. I wrote this tonight to tell you to do what you can to fix the system. Attending a school like Roosevelt, I have gotten used to expecting less opportunities. Throughout my time here, I have had many amazing teachers, some of whom recently lost their jobs due to budget cuts. Not only does this affect the teachers who lost their jobs, but also other teachers who now have to juggle with even larger class sizes and teach multiple different curriculums, which cuts down on their ability to help students. While there are numerous ways to mold the system into something that can better serve the community, bringing back the foundations isn't one of them. Out of all the top 10 schools to lose the most FTE, only one, Ida B. Wells, is a school with a foundation. Blaming the foundation is just avoiding the real problem of the shortcomings of the Oregon system and legislators. Now is the time to carefully revisit your legislature and make sure they are the people that will advocate for your child to have better education. Please get involved to demonstrate for your children their civic right to advocate for their education and to fight for the PPS staff who have also been affected. And that's all they had. And I think that's all I've got for the report tonight. Next meeting, I will have a report on who the next student representative is. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, exciting. Thank you, Student Representative Retorto. All right, next on the agenda, we have public comment. As many of you noticed, we have a new public comment system. We are trying to expand not only the number of public comments that we get, but also the equity of access. And just kind of a reminder, when we allocated around 30 minutes for public comment. When the number of slots are filled, the slots are filled through a lottery system to, again, trying to ensure as equitable a system as possible. Therefore, we do have a wait list. If you are on the wait list, you may also request to be rolled over to the next meeting. We are having these 30-minute public comments for both our meetings per month, so that's 2 times a month, which is quadruple what we used to have. So we're hoping this new system works. Just also a reminder to fit as many people as possible. We did reduce the limit, the time limit to about 2 minutes. If we have a meeting, it doesn't look like today, but if we don't have completely filled up, we can expand that to 3 minutes. So that's our new system that we're working with. All right. Also want to note that looking at the list of public comments, we do notice that a few people have signed up about a certain personnel matter in the district. I want to kindly ask that if you are commenting about a personnel in this district, 2 things. One is a reminder, the board actually is not involved in personnel decisions in the district. That's not part of our purview. It is part of the superintendent's purview. So if you did come here to talk about a specific person, employee of the district, we kindly asked you to direct that to the superintendent's office. We also have 2 area supervisors up there in the corner that can also take your issue or thing that you want to talk about. They will report that to both the superintendent. They can also report that to the board. So it's not going to disappear in limbo. We will get it. And that is an other alternative. However, we still want to continue to provide your testimony. We do ask, just out of respect, to please not name the school or the position that the person is, any way to identify them, just to maintain respect, because the board is purview to the topic that you signed up for. We as a board know who you're talking about. But just for the public, in terms of, the public sphere, this is going out on YouTube, we ask that you please kindly keep that person's identity private. Again, we do know who you're talking about. And you're also welcome to email us, the board, the superintendent, or the area supervisors, the specific issues that you do want to raise if you do not get a chance to testify, or you wanted to name certain things that you didn't feel comfortable naming in public. So that, if that's clear, that is our ask today, that we kindly be respectful and just, yeah. And then I will move on to our expectations for and guidelines for our public comment. You do have 2 minutes. When you're up on the dais, you'll have a light. When the yellow light shines, that means you have 30 seconds to finish up your comment. And when the red light lights up, that means you are done. If you're online, there's usually a timer. Another reminder, board members here, we are here to listen to your public comment and listen intently, and we are not here to engage in conversation for those who are testifying. If the board office may follow up on certain board-related issues that are raised during public testimony. We also, if you are a PPS staff person who is giving public comment today, we would kindly remind you that you may not provide testimony about a student that could violate confidentiality protections under FERPA. This includes testimony using information that could identify students, especially their school community, by use of direct or indirect linkages, such as school, grade, special education, or other status. Also, for materials that you would like the board to receive, such as handouts and pictures, etc., please don't come up to the dais. You may hand them over to Ms. Bradshaw over there, and who will distribute them to us. In order for the board to conduct its business, we also ask board members to please refrain from calling out, interrupting speakers, or otherwise disrupting the meeting. We appreciate your cooperation in this and maintaining a very respectful and educational setting for all of us. I feel like that was probably the longest intro to any public comment I've ever given. So I'm going to end it with this. If there are additional items, and I already said this, but that you would like us to receive that you didn't get a chance to perhaps finish your testimony or whatnot, you may email that to the website, publiccomment@pps.net. When you begin your public comment, please clearly state your name, spell your last name. Again, 2 minutes, yellow light, 30 seconds. We will let's call 3 people at a time, and you may go ahead and begin testimony the moment you feel comfortable and go. A little trick here is if you start speaking before the green light goes on, you get a little bonus seconds. So, yeah. Ms. Bradshaw, could you call the first 3?
Yes. Lovely Castillo Bojorges, Chelsea Waiter, Joe McFerrin.
Great, you may begin when you're ready.
Great, I can start. Good evening, members of the board and Dr. Armstrong. My name is Chelsea Wyatter, W-I-A-T-E-R, and I'm speaking today as a Portland Public Schools parent, an alum, a former employee, and as a professional with 16 years of experience in institutional asset management and 10 years serving on nonprofit boards in fundraising and donor engagement. And I'm here to request a pragmatic shift in the enforcement of board policy 7.10.020-P, restricting local school foundations. In my professional life, I help institutions plan for their employees' future. What this policy is doing right now with local foundations is the financial equivalent of forcing a worker to retire today when their 401k was only opened yesterday. I believe we all share emphatic support for the intent for the Fund for PPS to decouple our students' success from the neighborhood that they live in and from that capacity to fundraise. But in the worlds of investment management and nonprofit fundraising, we must measure success by impact and not by intent. And unfortunately, the current impact of this policy is creating a funding gap. By dismantling local support systems before the Fund for PPS has the scale to replace them, we've breached our fiduciary responsibility to our children and inadvertently compounded the current fiscal crisis our schools are facing. I'm asking the board to institute a pause on this harmful policy. Let's allow the local school foundations to fund staff positions while the Fund for PPS reaches its established fundraising benchmarks. I'm asking that you see the local foundations for what they could be, a critical relief valve at the time that our district needs it the most. When a local foundation funds a staff position, they effectively free up district resources. Every dollar raised locally is a dollar saved in the general fund that can be reallocated directly to the most vulnerable children in schools. Let's grant ourselves this lifeline that will allow the district to concentrate its now limited resources exclusively where the needs are the highest. We can't control the state's budget, but we can control this. Allow the local school foundations to align our impact with our intent to best serve our vulnerable populations. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Lovely Castillo Bojorquez, Castillo. I am a student at Benson Polytechnic High School who has participated in and am currently in a program funded by the Racial Equity and Social Justice Initiative. I participated in the program Juntos Aprendemos from ages 3 to 5. I have wonderful memories that have impacted my life. I remember learning my colors, the numbers, how to write my name, and having security to advocate for myself. This program also allowed me to have my parents with me while it was going on. That helped my transition into kindergarten as I began to understand that school is a safe place for me and that I didn't have anything to worry about. Being comfortable allowed me to understand what was actually being taught to me, which, in the long run, helped me academically. I am now a participant in Early Escalera, a program for 9th and 10th graders. Being a freshman, the transition into high school was overwhelming. Early Escalera provides a mentor for every student, and we frequently check in to see how school is going, if anything is bothering us, or if we need a little support. These check-ins have made me feel seen, and it's nice knowing there's someone I can rely on at school. During our meetings, we also learn about social emotional learning, discuss our GPAs, have new experiences, and develop leadership skills. Escalera is a program for 11th and 12th graders, and both my siblings have participated. It helped them find a university that fits their needs. My older brother is in his 3rd year at Oregon State University with a major in mechanical engineering, a focus in energy and fluid systems, and a minor in Japanese language and culture. My sister is in her 1st year at Bates College, located in Lewiston, Maine. I'm very proud of how far my siblings have come, and they're my biggest inspiration. Their achievements have been made possible thanks to support from programs funded by the Racial Equity and Social Justice Initiative. Please fully fund the RESJ partnership.
Okay, thank you.
That's not fair. I have to follow. Great job, by the way. Good evening, Chair Wong, Vice Chair DePaz, and members of the PPS Board and Superintendent Dr. Armstrong. My name is Joe McFerrin II, McFerrin. I serve as President and CEO of POIC, which is a home of the Rosemary Anderson Prep Schools. I want to begin by acknowledging that as a board, as a superintendent, that you are facing some very difficult decisions under real constraints, and I recognize the weight and the complexity of balancing the district's needs during this time. I want to briefly frame my comments around outcomes, efficiency, and alignment with the district goals. POIC and PPS have partnered since the late 1980s to serve students who are disproportionately impacted by poverty, disengagement, and interrupted educational pathways. Through this partnership, POIC has leveraged public, private, and philanthropic funding streams to expand the district's capacity to serve these students. Rosemary Anderson Prep and our community-based alternative schools partners are specifically designed to re-engage students who are at risk of not graduating. In recent years, these programs have contributed to measurable improvements in student retention and graduation outcomes within PPS. From a fiscal perspective, CBOs represent a high return investment. We bring students back into the system, students who would otherwise generate no enrollment-based funding, and we do so at a lower per student cost while supplementing services with external resources. And so in conclusion, I would say sustaining and strengthening these partnerships is both an educational and fiscal imperative. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Bradshaw, can you call the next three?
Laura Stepp, Elizabeth de Jesus Lopez, Miranda Morales.
Again, you may begin once you sit down if you want to steal a few extra seconds.
Keep it moving then. Hi. Is this on? It's working. My name is Laura Stepp, S-T-E-P-P. I'm here today wearing 3 hats. I'm a parent of 2 PPS alumni. I'm also an alum. I'm also here as the Chief HR Officer of Sheer ID. It's a local Portland tech company, and also as a board member for POIC, which is the home of Rosemary Anderson Prep. You just heard about it. I've spent the last 16 years or so in executive suites, and I know exactly what it looks like when the numbers demand hard decisions to ensure an organization survives and then thrives. Right sizing is more than difficult. I've done it many times. In my view, it's been overdue for the district, so I understand the need. I know that it requires the kind of leadership that prioritizes long-term outcomes over short-term comfort, and it takes a lot of heart, so I empathize with you all with this task. As you look at the data to make your choices, I urge you to focus on the workforce of the future. To hire the talent Portland needs, our schools have to be agile and modern. We cannot afford a one-size-fits-all model. We need diverse, engaged students who have been given a reason to stay in school and who can fill a diverse set of human capital needs in our community. This brings me to my ask. As you make these cuts and tough decisions, please protect the budget-neutral support for community-based alternative schools like Rosemary Anderson Prep and other alternative schools. From a business perspective, this is a high-yield investment with a 0 net additional cost to the district. Here's the ROI I believe we provide. Student retention, we catch the kids that are most at risk of dropping out, providing the wraparound services that traditional schools can't provide, and we fundraise to also provide those additional resources ourselves. Graduation rates, we turn potential dropouts into graduates and directly improve the district's performance metrics. And lastly, fiscal efficiency. 1/3 of our students are on IEPs. Because we keep them in the system, that associated funding stays within the district. Supporting alternative education options within the district isn't just a moral choice, it's a fiscally positive strategy from my perspective. By doing so, you're keeping vulnerable kids in the system and transforming them into the productive taxpayers of the future that we need in the city. Please use the right sizing moment to lean into what works, keep our kids in school, keep funding in the district, keep our future workforce intact.
Great, thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Elizabeth de Jesus Lopez. I am a parent. I am a worker at PPS. I'm right here asking to keep up the program funded by Racial Equity and Social Justice Initiative. This will be the 3rd year me and my daughter are part of the Juntos Aprendemos program. And I would like to mention that this is not just a program that helps kids, but also helps parents. They learn how to talk in Spanish, interact in Spanish with other friends, and learn how the colors, the reading, everything's in Spanish. And that's what I love about this program, because it keeps my kiddo practice and learning about their cultures. They do a lot of different activities for them. And the most important thing for me, it was able to have the transition before she started kindergarten, preschool, because she was really attached to me, and I didn't want her to be crying all the time that I dropped her off at school. I want her to be ready and have fun her first day at school. I don't want it to be sad and all emotional about it. I just want to make sure that we keep these programs because it's really important for our community, for our culture, to pass our tradition for our kids and not just be at home playing video games or doing things that is not going to help them in the future. My daughter is in kindergarten right now, and she does a big package of homework, and she's asking for more and more. She's ready to start learning her math, her multiplications, and I'm so excited to see the anger that she has about learning. And her favorite part is a graduation. When she dances, she received her diploma, and we all get to eat different type of fruits, vegetables, and parents' foods. I would like to ask you to fully fund this program because it's an amazing program.
Thank you.
Hi, dear Superintendent and board members. My name is Miranda Morales, Morales. I am one of 3 SOL coordinators of 12 schools throughout the ResJ contract. I just want to say thank you for allowing our program to go on for so long. A big focus is leadership, advocacy, and having a cultural belonging for our middle schoolers. Throughout my 2 years of working as a SOL coordinator, I've been able to see students create a space that feels safe and inclusive for them. They've been able to implement practices that highlight their identity and cultures, as well as learning how to advocate for themselves and their communities. PPS should continue to support the community with these programs because when students have spaces where they can be their authentic selves and are able to share their lived experiences, they are able to see other perspectives and form ideas that challenge them, their communities, and the systems in place. This helps create accountability and new leaders in spaces where they might not see folks who look like them. When we talk about inclusion and diversity, that includes investing in our future leaders, no matter what age or what background they come from. I've seen firsthand how students have taken ideas and perspectives learned from SOL and have used them in their high school journeys. Something that comes to mind are previous SOL students planning and implementing walkouts for community change at McDaniel, Roosevelt, and even in some of the middle schools. Having programs like SOL means investing in future change makers. With all that being said, please continue to invest in these programs and our future leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Great. Ms. Bradshaw, the next 3.
Cherie Pollard, Jesse Courtney, Jennifer Stetson.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Pollard, Pollard. I am the parent of a current fifth grader at our local elementary school in Forest Heights. I'm here tonight to address serious concerns regarding the conduct, judgment, and leadership of the current principal at our school. The broader impact on the school is actually staggering. During this principal's tenure, enrollment at our school has declined 19.5%. If you're here tonight in support of these concerns and the families affected, I respectfully ask you to stand with me now. I filed a formal complaint in November of 25 regarding multiple student safety incidents, including 1 razor blade incident and 2 separate gun incidents. I had to request a response after nearly 3 months of silence. I have had to keep asking the district for answers. Other parents have experienced the same pattern, and it deepens mistrust within the community. How the principal handled my daughter during the razor blade investigation left her uncomfortable and afraid to be alone with him, and she was the victim. Most concerning, I personally reported one of the gun threats to the principal at 7:15 a.m. And yet the student was still allowed into the classroom at the start of that school day before the safety assessment was completed. I'm asking the board directly, is that district protocol? I asked the district the same question multiple times and did not get a direct response until 10:59 this morning, only after they learned that I would be speaking tonight. The district claims procedures were followed, but its own records reflect the timeline that I just described. That response asked families to accept the district's conclusion without clear answers, accountability, or transparency. I'm asking this board to require transparent review, written clarification of the safety protocols used, meaningful corrective action, and assurance that no child or family will face retaliation. In closing, this is what should concern every member of this board. Our children do not feel comfortable with this person. Our children are afraid of this person. They don't feel safe, and they don't want to be in the same room alone with him. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. If I could just ask again if we can try to refrain from naming the school or the position and the way to identify the personnel. That'd be good. Again, we have the information of how you, when you signed up, we have that information, so we know who you're talking about. So you don't necessarily have to mention the person or the school or position. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jess Courtney, Courtney, and my daughter has been a PPS student since kindergarten, and I've been a PPS employee since 2023. I'm here tonight to document a concerning pattern of failure in leadership, communication, and student protection. In 2024, when my daughter was overwhelmed and crying, she was approached by the principal and told, "That's not the cry of someone who's upset," and compared her to the boy who cried wolf. She was 9 years old. In September of 2025, she was subjected to explicit verbal sexual harassment by a classmate. She reported it appropriately to school staff. However, we, her parents, were not notified. We learned about the incident only because she came home and told us herself. When we addressed our concerns, the responses were delayed, unclear, and inconsistent with Title IX requirements. And then the burden of protection was placed on our daughter, the victim, rather than the offending student. On one occasion, without notifying us, she was removed from her own classroom to keep the students separated. When we asked whether or not the district Title IX office had been informed of the decision, we were informed that they had not. When we asked the administration to explain the escalation process, we were told they needed to look into the next steps, but no one followed up. And I want to be very clear about the impact of this. During the Title IX meeting, in the presence of her teacher, the school counselor, and the principal, our daughter stated that she does not feel like he is a safe person. These are not isolated incidents. They reflect a pattern of leadership that fails to protect students, communicate with families, and uphold a level of accountability that this community expects and deserves. We're requesting a formal board review in the handling of these incidents, as well as a review of parent notification protocols. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Jen Stenson, Stenson. I'm a lifelong PPS stakeholder. I grew up in the Linton, Cornelius Pass area off Highway 30. My dad was a truck driver. My mom worked odd jobs. They met at what is now Ida B. Wells. I'm a product of Skyline, West Sylvan, Lincoln, and now I'm an Ainsworth parent. I'm here tonight representing a growing coalition of parents from Abernathy, Richmond, Forest Park, Dunaway, and Laurelhurst. We share a singular urgent concern. We want the fund for PPS to succeed, but we are asking for a temporary pause on the foundation ruling because right now we cannot outrun our problems in Portland. We are facing a convergence of economic failures, job loss, record inflation, and a cost of living crisis that is hollowing out our city. Our problems are moving faster than our ability to adapt. There are deep, valid debates on the history of foundations. I'm not here to relitigate any of those. Foundations are our problem. I'm here to talk about revenue and survival. A pause is the only thing the board can do that costs the district $0 but puts critical resources back into our schools in the short run. In a state of emergency, we cannot afford to leave any source of revenue off the table. Our house is on fire, and we are here to protect kids, our most valuable asset, not a policy. When a problem feels too large or abstract, people disengage. They don't see how their $5 or $10 help a $50 million deficit, so they stop giving. We are seeing this play out in the current PPS funding. The PPS fund has not had enough time to build and connect and make the level of impact our schools desperately need. Some might suggest that letting these local funds cycle out is a necessary transition, but a classroom is not a laboratory, and our kids are not test subjects. To starve the system today in hopes of a better policy tomorrow is a strategy that incurs a civic debt our students can never repay. By pausing this ruling, you re-engage the community. You give parents a way to see the immediate impact of their contribution on their child's classroom, and they will find ways to give. Pausing a strategy that isn't yet meeting its target isn't a sign of weakness or a failure. It's a show of strength and leadership. It proves that the board can look at the facts and pivot when the situation demands it. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry,
David?
just to pause 1 sec. I forgot one more rule that we had for this new system. We saw that a couple people had requested an interpreter. If you do have an interpreter, you are allowed double time to give time for you to speak and also the interpreter to interpret. So that I just want to make sure I remind everybody, for people who require interpreter service, you have double the time. Okay. Next three, when you are ready.
Yes. We have 2 left in person and 2 virtual.
Great, thank you.
David Contreras and Molly Gabriz.
Sorry, my name is David Contreras Machado. I'm actually going to be giving my time to one of our SOL students participating in part of the Latino Network programs.
I'm just here for support.
Okay, you may begin when ready.
Oh, sorry, I thought you were going. I apologize. My name is Molly Gabris, Gabris, and I am here speaking with you tonight because I'm concerned about the process the district has used to propose and finalize cuts resulting from the budget shortfall. I understand that it's incredibly difficult to make these decisions, but I want to ensure that the district and you as the district's overseers are following defined procedures. And I want you to ensure that the cuts are taking into account community feedback and pursuing the most equitable solution for all students. My purpose here tonight is to ask you for help to ensure that as overseers, when cuts are proposed, you take into account all community feedback before decisions are made, remove leaders with any biases, and fully consider and present multiple options with detailed and data-driven analysis for each choice. Thank you so much for your time.
Great, thank you.
Hello, my name is Andres Tanner, Tanner. I'm a student at here at Tubman Middle School in a program funded by the Racial Equity and Social Justice Initiative. When I first got to middle school, I was exposed to a lot of people, some really nice and some a little bit racist. When I got to Seoul, it was a great experience to be able to be around fellow Latinx people, and it made me proud of my culture and who I am. So I ask that you please fully fund the RESJ partnerships.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Oxier.
You may begin when ready.
I can start. I don't know. My name is Elizabeth Auxier. Good evening to the members of the board and Dr. Armstrong. Oh, Auxier. I'm a PPS parent with a kindergartner, second grader, and fourth grader, and I volunteer in the classroom each week in my daughter's kindergarten class. I'm here to ask you to support a temporary pause on the current foundation funding restrictions. Spending time in the classroom, you see very quickly how much support is needed for the youngest kids in our school. At the kindergarten levels especially, kids are learning how to read, how to focus, and how to be part of a classroom. That takes time, attention, and multiple adults in the room. And right now, what I'm seeing is that schools are trying to fill those gaps however they can, including relying on more parents to help with basic classroom support. Parents are always going to show up where they can, but they are not a substitute for trained teachers and educational assistants. This year already feels like such a bare bones staffing. I can't imagine what it will look like or feel like with even more reduced staffing next year. There's no fat left to trim. I understand the goal of building a stronger district-wide funding model, but that system isn't fully in place yet. A pause is a simple, practical step. It gives schools the ability to maintain the support students need right now, while the long-term solution is still being built. Please support a pause. Thank you for your time.
Great. Thank you.
Good evening, directors and Dr. Armstrong. My name is Andrea Gall, G-A-L-L, she, her pronouns, and I'm a PPS parent. To absorb necessary cuts, our elementary school is proposing to cut 2 teachers from the English program and none from the dual immersion program. Uneven enrollment and class size thresholds were cited as the reason for this decision. I'm not here tonight to ask that there are no cuts. I know that's not a fiscal reality, but I am asking that the way that cuts are absorbed within our school is data-driven, community-informed, and thoughtful. Looking into publicly available enrollment data invites any reasonable person to ask questions. Does 49% enrollment in the English program versus 51% in the DLI program indicate uneven enrollment? Does this 2% enrollment difference warrant the English program taking 100% of the cuts? Does cutting over $300,000 of staffing to the program that has more than double the poverty rate and with 40% of students identifying as BIPOC reflect our values? The English program has a 57% higher rate of students with IEP. Does placing the burden of these cuts on our most vulnerable students seem reasonable? Does formally unassigning teaching staff from the English program prior to informing families of any program changes sound like authentic community engagement? The English program class sizes have routinely exceeded 30 students, reaching as high as 35, with the DLI program never exceeding 30 students a single time in the 16 years of available data. What we're experiencing here is a deep disparity in how we allocate resources within a single school, creating a disparate impact. I'm requesting that the board intervene. The data show that the current proposal at our school is lopsided, inequitable, and short-sighted. Please don't let 49% of our students take 100% of the cuts. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Ms. Brashaw, does that conclude our public testimony? All right, thank you. Again, I want to thank everyone who took their time out of the day to present. Your feedback informs our work and is invaluable, so thank you again. All right, next up we have space for our time. We have our union partners, who we always are happy to hear from.
Okie doke. Hello. Just waiting on this computer to log in, do the thing. Thank you for your patience. Okay, there we go. Great. Good evening. My name is Angela Bonilla. Use she, they, ella pronouns. I'm the president of the Portland Association of Teachers. Thank you for the continued commitment and time to listen to us as union representatives. I'd like to share a few notes, and then we'll allow one of our building reps to share about their experience at their school currently. This past Saturday, I went to the engagement session at Kellogg Middle School about the right sizing conversation that I know y'all will discuss and eventually vote on a resolution describing the process for that work. As an educator, whenever I want students to meaningfully engage in a conversation, I know that I have to give them a schema or background information that they need to give informed opinions. At the engagement session, it was clear that we were not going to get that background information we needed to give clear guidance on how we would like to discuss the possibility of school closures, redrawing boundaries, or school consolidation. The question I hope that we can raise, instead of having a debate about which school should be closed or consolidated, is this: how can we equitably distribute the limited resources of this district across our schools and our students? How do we ensure that our decisions are based on data from spreadsheets and lived experiences, but are not swayed by the loudest and most privileged voices in the room? I would have loved to have had more time to talk in small groups about our priorities. I would have loved to discuss what steps the district is taking to funnel resources from central office, where in the 25-26 school year, the number of staff between, but not including our principals and our superintendent, totaled about 207 FTE, with at least 5 layers of management. I would have loved to hear that the district is committed to creating a work group that includes union staff and building staff that advises on issues we need resolved through this process. I would have loved to hear about how we can strengthen enrollment by encouraging the social housing that's being proposed by our city within our catchment. I would have loved to see that the district has intended to, or at least completed, an equity audit that keeps the original question in mind. How can we equitably distribute the limited resources of this district across our schools and students? I know much of this is coming before the board tonight, and I firmly believe that we need to give the PPS community the facts at every step of the process, including redrawing all of our boundaries district-wide before considering closing our schools. I'm excited to finally discuss how to equitably distribute these limited resources, and I believe that the chronic redrawing of boundaries in piecemeal ways, where strongly organized communities can demand and win exclusion from that process, has put us in this position. And the lack of a comprehensive plan for distributing the seats accepted at our focus programs, so no one school loses all their student population because a lottery-based focus school is seated nearby. I mean, these are the types of considerations that I think an equity audit can help us discuss, especially because we have a complex, robust, and diverse school offering and populations. And I hope that we not only work to build a better future for our students, but we also focus on supporting our students and our workers now. There are issues our schools face that cost very little or nothing to solve, and that would do a lot more to grow great schools than closing and consolidating our sites. The way to solve these issues is by listening to and believing our workers and families when they say, hey, something isn't working. Many of our deepest seated issues that we need resolved at our sites have to do with administrator accountability. For example, educators are evaluated or observed at least twice a year, and that often can lead to a plan of support so that if we're struggling, our principals can support us in developing as educators. But at this point, I don't believe our principals have a similar system as far as I know. We want to solve problems at the lowest level, usually at our schools, through collaboration and communication. Unfortunately, those calls often go unanswered or are answered with retaliation by the very administrators we need held accountable. That's why you end up with several public comment slots filled with communities speaking to their experiences at a school, or votes of no confidence from workers that go unheard. I have a union representative here who will share a little bit more about how deeply these issues impact our schools and communities.
Thank you, Angela, for having me speak. Hello to the board and to Dr. Armstrong. My name is Kayla Mora, M-O-R-A. I'm a 5th grade teacher at Forest Park Elementary, as well as the PAT head union rep for educators at my school. I'm here tonight to speak about ongoing concerns regarding administrative leadership and school climate at Forest Park Elementary. Speaking publicly like this is not something I've ever done before, and it's not something I take lightly. However, after 4 years of attempting to address these issues through internal channels, our community feels our concerns have not been meaningfully addressed. Over time, the administrator at Forest Park Elementary has shown a pattern of ineffective communication, inconsistent decision-making, and failures to follow established safety and professional protocols. Thank you. These issues have escalated to the point where many educators in our building live in constant stress and chaos on a daily basis. There are several staff members here tonight in support. There are also those who are not because they are genuinely afraid of retaliation. The fact that educators are afraid to speak publicly about conditions in their own workplace should be deeply concerning to all of us. I have personally been a witness to and have experienced a multitude of situations in which protocols and professionalism were not followed. One situation last year involved a threat connected to gun violence, and many of us were left without clear communication or leadership. In situations like that, educators rely on administration to provide clarity, direction, and reassurance. Instead, many staff members, including myself, felt unsupported and uncertain about how the situation was being handled. The district already has access to significant information about what's happening at my school. Our successful school survey among staff has declined over multiple years under the current leadership. Concerns have been raised with the district on several occasions, including formal complaints. The union also is aware of the concerns and has also made the district aware on several occasions. At the same time, our school has experienced some of the highest unenrollment rates. Over the past 4 years, we've lost roughly 65 students. Families are leaving and staff morale is very, very low. I'm not here to attack individuals. However, it is clear that the current situation is not sustainable for our students, families, or staff. Something needs to change, and it needs to change immediately and drastically. My question is, why are teachers held to such high standards and asked to do more and more and more when we're not asking our administrators and our leadership to do the same thing? Tonight, I'm asking the school board and specifically Dr. Armstrong to take these concerns seriously and to look closely at what's happening in my community. I'm also submitting documentation that outlines many of the issues staff have raised over the past several years, as well as statements from staff members about their personal experiences. Our community, my community, deserves a school environment where students feel safe, educators feel supported, and leadership builds trust rather than eroding it. Thank you for your time and your attention to staff and student well-being.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, all right. Thank you again for your public comment. And yeah, we are now on the next part of our agenda tonight, which is the resolution to direct the superintendent to begin a right-sizing process for Portland Public Schools. This resolution, which I am introducing along with Director Split, is Resolution 7296. And the reason we created this resolution, this was actually a long process. It actually started 3 weeks ago, or 4 weeks ago, after our meeting where the board stated their priorities on the next steps or committing to this next step. So just kind of quick little summary about why this resolution is important for this moment. Number one, the board has never really officially voted on this direction. We've given direction, but we never had a chance to actually officially vote on something to give clear direction. We've also heard feedback from district leadership and staff that having clear direction from the board is very important, as well as helps direct the work and commits and creates accountability for getting the work done on time. Number two, having this resolution also commits us to a timeline. As we learned from our previous information sessions and looking at other districts, one of the things that was considered best practice in consolidation processes is that a timeline about 7 to 12 months is considered best practice. Any more kind of prolongs anxiety among families and things like that. Again, lesson learned from our SCGC process, which lasted 2+ years. And one of the biggest feedback we got from our families was this was a really long time to provide or to give us to live through uncertainty. Committing us to a timeline also provides accountability for getting things done on time. lastly, and this is the reason why I asked Director Split to co-introduce this, is that one of the most important things, and also one of the pitfalls that I experienced during SCGC, was that when certain areas or schools are excluded from right-sizing process, it leads to inequitable outcomes. And this clearly makes a bold statement that all schools, all programs are going to be considered, will be considered during this right-sizing process. So just kind of quickly outline, again, this was this resolution is created through a 3-4 week process where goals were identified from me, as well as Dr. Armstrong, Superintendent Armstrong, some staff and leadership, with multiple iterations where we collaborated trying to figure out making sure that the language didn't have any unintended consequences. Also feedback from staff. As we're directing staff to do this work, it's important to get the input from our staff who are charged with doing this work. And what we figure out was the best process is this is only the first of many, probably a couple of resolutions. This is just starting us off on the process, step 1 of, phase 3 of growing great schools. And then finally, at the end of this, I sent this over to Director Split for final approval. And I don't know if you want to say anything about it before I move on to one more point I want to make.
Okay, so I'll say something. Oh, he wants the last word. Okay. I can make my point, and then you can have last. You're fine. I don't need the last word at all. I guess I'll just say that we've talked in the past about having sort of multiple resolutions along the way in this process, and this is one that's meant to sort of kick things off and really set us up for what kind of we're already doing, even though the resolution a little bit follows what's already been started. I am excited to have the next resolution be one that gives direction to staff on sort of the criteria for evaluation and for other pieces of the puzzle that I think are necessary for us to set in a resolution in order to provide staff clarity. It's really important to me that we have the public engagement that we're doing now that will then inform that next resolution. And that this one is kind of meant, my understanding of it, to just sort of kick things off and provide sort of board support for what's happening now to demonstrate that we're all committed to this process. So that's my intention with this, and I just want to set the clear expectation that I hope that we have a next resolution that gets more into the details, some of which I think colleagues on the board are planning on introducing into this particular piece. And I look forward to that conversation, but just want to make it clear that I think much of what I'm seeing there are the kind of things that if we hear from community that we should include in that next step resolution following this initial public engagement. I think that's all that I'll say for now, but if we do have discussion of amendments or whatever, I hope I can talk again.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Yes, and my closing statement was just kind of repeating what you said. We are planning on another resolution titled The Guiding Principles, which is something that Director Split has specifically mentioned as a very important step as well. After, we are only one of, I think, 4 now public engagement sessions of the way through. And so, yes, that's I just want to lay out clear, that's the kind of big overarching plan. And now I'm going to hand it over to Superintendent Armstrong if you would like to speak more about this resolution before we start discussion.
Yes, I was saying no, but yes, only to say that we appreciate you all coming together as a collective and providing a firm direction in where it is that you all would like to go and what you'd like to see, because your clarity helps me move through the work with efficiency and effectiveness. So thank you for your time and diligence on that, and I look forward to your discussion.
Thank you. Before we start discussion, do we have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7296, resolution to direct the superintendent to begin a right-sizing process for Portland Public Schools?
So moved.
Second.
Vice Chair DePass moves, and Director Chase Miller seconds. Let's start with public comment. Ms. Brascia, do we have any public comment signed up?
We do, and we have one person in person and one online.
Okay.
I'm going to be listening while I go try to figure out why my Wi-Fi is not working, so I'm just apologizing to whoever's coming up. It's not just me. Okay, well, never mind then. I will just continue to not have access to any documents. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. Brash, did you say the public comment was in person or online?
We have one of each.
Okay, one of each. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll call Leslie
Go ahead,
Brown.
call them. I assume you remember the guidelines from earlier, but because this is a specific item that we are voting on, you have 3 minutes for your public comment. So thank you.
Good evening. My name is Leslie Brown, B-R-O-W-N. I'm a PTA president at Lee Elementary, and I've also taught in Portland Public Schools for over a decade. I want to begin by acknowledging the difficult work ahead of you. I understand that the district is facing hard decisions about school closures. As you move through this process, I urge you to keep the North Star clearly in sight. The board has spoken about finding a guiding principle for these decisions. If the North Star is grounded in equity, the principle that resources and support and opportunities are distributed to achieve equal outcomes, then this must lead you unwaveringly, no matter how loudly certain voices advocate or how much pressure surrounds this process. That is why families from several Title I school communities have begun organizing together, and I want to acknowledge the irony in this. In Portland Public Schools, communities with more resources have often had the ability to organize quickly and loudly when their schools are threatened. Our coalition is forming because we want to ensure that families who have historically had less power in these conversations are heard just as clearly. But the truth is, we should not have to compete to be the loudest voice in the room. Many of the schools appearing on the list of lower enrollment are Title I schools that serve students and families who rely deeply on their neighborhood schools, not only for education, but for stability and connection. Schools like Lee are community hubs. At Lee, families access a weekly food pantry, students participate in free after-school enrichment programs through our Sun School, multi-generational, multicultural family gatherings for events like Lunar New Year celebration and Black Brilliance Night. 18 languages are spoken at our students' homes. Many families' first connection with the school through our Head Start classroom before kindergarten even begins. These details may be specific to Lee, but they are not unique to Lee. Across our district, Title I schools serve as anchors for their communities in similar ways, providing support networks, relationship, and opportunities that extend far beyond the classroom. Closing schools like Lee would not simply move students from one building to another. When school closures require the most vulnerable students to travel farther from their neighborhood schools and fragment deep-seated trusting relationships, we must ask whether this is truly equitable. Increasing distance and broken trust can create real barriers for families and can impact attendance, something we know the district cares deeply about. Our coalition is coming together because we want to ensure that communities that rely most on their neighborhood schools are heard in this process, and we are hoping our united voice can do that. We also recognize that some communities have more time, resources, and organizational capacity to advocate more loudly. But equity requires looking beyond whose voices are the loudest. Before closing any Title I schools, we ask that the district looks deeply at the systemic structures that may contribute to lower enrollment in these communities. And if closures must happen, we ask that the burden be placed on Title I and historically marginalized school communities be heavily weighted in the decision making. Our request to you is simple. Let equity truly be your North Star, guiding your process steadily and consistently when the pressures are loud around you. Protect Title I school communities whenever possible and ensure that students who rely mostly on their neighborhood schools are the last to bear the burden of closures. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Can I just clarify? I know we don't often comment right after a public comment, but I heard a list, and I just want to be clear that you all haven't received a list. And I know that I've heard in different communities that people see the low enrolled schools and assume that they're automatically on the list. And what I've been sharing in community is that it isn't just enrollment, it's about that school's capacity, and that you all intent on looking at that. So I just want to reassure folks out there that there's no preliminary draft proposed or even the formation of a draft of a list, and that work will begin later this spring.
Thank you for that. No, I don't have to say that because I was going to comment too. Do we have the online person is?
Yes. Marwa Kamal. What happened? Uh-oh. Okay. Marwa, you have to click accept. There you go.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Dear Superintendent and board members, my name is Marwa Kamel. That's Kamel. I'm a parent of 3 students at PPS. I want to speak directly to your role in oversight and ensuring that right-sizing decisions are both equitable and grounded in sound analysis. I recognize that Portland Public Schools is facing a roughly $50 million structural deficit, driven primarily by declining enrollment, rising costs, and the expiration of one-time funding. Families understand that difficult decisions are required. But structural deficits require structural solutions, not just reconfiguration of classrooms without a clearly communicated framework. At our school, families are being asked to accept blended classrooms concentrated in one track, yet there has been no clear explanation of how this configuration was selected over other viable options. This is not simply a communication gap. It raises a more fundamental concern whether the current plan reflects a fully evaluated data-driven decision or a constrained solution presented as the only path forward. Equity is being cited as justification, but equity is not a label, it's a methodology. Strong systems do not choose between equity and excellence, they design for both. When one group of students is asked to absorb disproportionate structural change, the burden of proof must be higher, not lower. And that standard has not been met in a way that is visible to families. Enrollment decline is not just about fewer children, it's about fewer families choosing PPS. If confidence erodes, enrollment will continue to decline, compounding the problem. Our school is a legacy school in a strong neighborhood. It should be positioned to attract and retain families, not create uncertainty around foundational instruction, especially for first and second graders. I have submitted more detailed comments in writing, including recommendations on strengthening enrollment, program design, and community engagement. And I respectfully ask the board to ensure that decisions are supported by a transparent analytical framework, that equity is applied as a measurable process, and that right sizing is paired with a strategy to rebuild trust and stabilize enrollment. Thank you for your time and oversight, and looking forward to hearing from you soon.
Great, thank you. All right, now with that, we will now begin board discussion. I forgot who I left off with the last time, so we'll just start with Director LaForte and go this way instead.
Well, I don't usually go first. This is just process, do you read it first?
Do you want me? I can go over it really quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me do that. Oh, sorry. Yeah, let me go over the process question. So let me just kind of go over the resolution really quick so that we have it. If you can please also note that there is a revised version, and that is the current version that we are proposing. Yeah, and then that's the amendment, and this is the actual one. That's the amendment. Amendment proposal. The one with green is the actual one. All right, so the resolution 7296, the recitals, to summarize, it says that whereas Portland Public Schools is well committed to well-resourced schools, that is the goal, and that has all students have equitable access to robust and high-quality educational experiences. Whereas the students' assignment to neighborhood school policy 4.1, et cetera, directs the superintendent to regularly monitor enrollment, program demand, and demographic trends. Also states that because of steady declining enrollment for the past 5 years, and is forecast to continue, at the same time our facilities are aging and costs have increased. This also stresses the importance of this process. And then next, to ensure that well-resourced, sustainable schools and equal access to opportunities for all schools in the district, the resolution reads as follows. A, all districts and school programs will be included in this process. B, an advisory committee of stakeholders, including union representatives, principals, and staff, will provide input and guidance to the superintendent. C, the district will involve community in virtual and in-person meetings and conversations to help inform the process, right-sizing options, and implementation of potential changes. D, the board will receive regular updates on the process. And E, implementation of the board-approved changes will be initiated no later than the 27-28 school year and will be completed within a 3-year period. And this is the time deadline that provides a time accountability for this, the Growing Great Schools process. It also recommits that the district is committed to ensuring that families, communities, students are at the forefront of these decisions being made. So therefore, we are now directing the superintendent to begin this phase of the Growing Great Schools right-sizing process. That suffice? Yes, so to read the resolution, the Board of Directors directs the superintendent to launch the district-wide right-sizing process within the Growing Great Schools district-wide process to consider schools and program consolidations, boundary adjustments, special program changes, and grade reconfigurations. Again, to just reiterate, this is the first of a few resolutions along this process, and this one is to make sure that we are, like I said before, to give the board an official vote to commit towards beginning this process, or phase 3 of the Growing Great Schools process.
All right, thank you. So I'm sorry, Chair Wong, did you want to put that on the table, that particular resolution on the table?
I thought this was the one.
There was a motion and a second.
But I just want to make clear it's the revised version you put on the table. I just wanted to say that clearly.
Thank you.
I'm sorry if that was clear before.
Yes, I assume it was clear, but let me just rephrase for those who have motion and second. Was it clear, is it clear that the revised version is the one that we are motioning a second and put on the table?
Yes.
Thank you. All right, Director LaForte.
Is this the part where I move to amend? Or do we just discuss?
It's up to you.
Okay. I would like to move to amend the resolution. Do you want me to walk through?
Yes.
Okay, great. Do you have a copy?
I have it online.
So
you make a motion and then
yeah.
someone has a second.
So I'm going to move to amend.
Thank
the
you.
resolution.
And can you name so there's, it uploaded is Resolution 7296. Hold on, what is the title as? In board books, it says the direct.
It's called
Proposed Amendment. Thank you.
Yeah.
And do we have a second?
Yes.
Thank you.
So this was drafted by Director Inkelslin and myself, and as written, the resolution initiates what will likely be an emotionally charged process, I think, as we're already seeing without capturing guardrails that we've already discussed. So the intent here is to simply reflect and formalize the high-level conversations and commitments that we've made in prior meetings, and memorialize the information that we've received. Sorry, I can talk today. Memorialize the information we've received in staff presentations. So that way our PPS families feel confident that we will have a responsive, transparent process from the outset, which we've actually already started. We started last weekend. And it also leaves space for the board to develop and adopt guiding principles as the process moves forward. We struck DB only because we haven't had a conversation about an advisory committee or a work group. I didn't quite understand what the goal of, I mean, I kind of do, but my initial concern, because there are a couple different versions of this, that it would be a group of those who had a financial interest in the outcome. I wasn't sure what the what I guess I'm asking, like, what's the goal of that advisory committee? Is it an advisory committee? Is it a task force? Because they both have, legal ramifications.
I'll have Director Split answer that question.
I want to answer it. I think that I understand your point about there being a financial stake in the outcome of anybody who works in the district of the conversation. But I think the idea is that we want to have a space, and it's actually something that Angela Bonilla just suggested that we do, and I don't even know if she knew that we were doing it or thinking about doing it. But because I think she was saying she wished we were. But I think the idea is that we have in the past had decisions come to the board without having that sort of staff vetting. And then we are kind of forced into a position where we're making a decision where maybe staff are coming to us in the moment of making a decision to say that they weren't consulted. And I think this is sort of matching that past experience up and saying that we need to have that conversation happen, and that an advisory committee can help us ensure that that actually does happen. One thing I'll note, and maybe this is like a little in the weeds, Sharon, or what am I supposed to call you? Gosh. Tonkeray. But my understanding too is like the top is kind of like this is what's happening, and then the bottom is like our resolution. So I think for what it's worth, this is us. To me, this is staff saying that we're going to do this, so that we make sure that we have that process to get staff input in a dedicated space where they can weigh in. The listening sessions, we certainly have staff, and staff are certainly welcome to be there. But I think at least my experience was it was overwhelmingly parents and families. And it might not feel as comfortable for staff to just take part in those listening sessions in the same way as a community member. So to me, it just makes a lot of sense to have a district staff-led conversation per what Angela Bonilla was saying earlier, to make sure that we actually do have that meaningful input.
So is this a staff committee? Like, is this all employees, like union representatives, principals, and staff, so no community members or families, because that was originally on there?
Well, I'm talking about what's on this revised version. And then what I will say is then you also see that there's the result of this process, like ensuring students, families, and community are at the forefront, involve the community in virtual and in-person meetings. So it's not superseding community in any way, it's additive. It's saying we're going to do that community process. The district will involve the community in virtual and in-person meetings and conversations. So that's still happening. This is also, not instead of, or in lieu of, or more important than, or anything. Does that help at all? At least that's my interpretation, or how I feel about it as somebody who helped put this together.
Oh, yeah, and I think it might help to add some background to this, because this is, again, one of the process of the iterative, and when we get staff feedback and leadership help also to revise it. The reason the original version that was crossed off, and thank you for I heard some actually taking Director LaFour, your feedback and changing the wording, because being more specific was why I revised this. So one of the kind of issues that we came about, it originally listed students, because we wanted a space for employees, teachers being represented by the union, principals, et cetera, and staff, other staff, and we wanted to place our students. However, we did have a staffer that specifically during this process, that when it went under review with staff, say that it would be very difficult to actually commit. You can't commit students to do this. We can ask them to do it. So that doesn't mean that we're not going to ask students, and I think we totally can. But the thing is, we can't require them to. And so that was one of the reasons why it changed the community members, which I think was what caused some of that concern about, hey, is this going to look like another SEGC? And so that's why that community members was then struck, because we know it wasn't supposed to be community. It was just another way to say, hey, we're going to try to get some student input. And so I think the outcome that came out of that is that we still want student input. We just need to look for another way to do that. And that's something I'm probably going to talk to Student Representative Retorto about, how to create that process. So that's the background behind why these wordings got changed so many times. But thank you, Director Split.
I had a comment too, that...
Can we just wait?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go in order, yeah.
One thing I want to, that is not in here, and maybe I need to come back to this, that I meant to include, under Section E, the result of this process will include. I wanted to change that to may, because with will, it sounds like it's a foregone conclusion that we're going to do this, and we haven't, we don't know what's going to happen. So I do believe that we should strike will and change it to may. Section E. This process, the result of this process will include school and program closures, switching that to may.
Can I say one thing? Because
Yeah.
part
Is that
of
okay?
this,
Well, sorry, I'm not chairing the
Is it
meeting.
okay if we can just go in order? Just,
well, because I think that
unless you're answering a question.
I just want to say that some of this was drafted before the green came out, and I just want to say that the green looks good to me in the community advisory, or the, anyway, I just want to say that, because it's very different than the email I sent through saying I was going to make an amendment to strike, and then, anyway, just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay, and then so moving on to the resolution itself, the Board of Directors directs the superintendent to launch the district-wide right-sizing process within the Growing Great Schools district-wide process to consider school and program consolidations, boundary adjustments, special program changes, and grade reconfigurations. We added subject to the following, and again, this is to kind of memorialize the conversations that we've had and to provide, a framework for the decisions, and leaves the space to establish our guiding principles, which I know, after our discussions, took that into account and tried not to be too prescriptive. So the first one is the superintendent shall present to the board for approval clear decision-making criteria prior to developing proposed scenarios. So this just establishes that we'll be approving criteria before scenarios are developed, which is foundational to a fair and transparent process. Not something to be figured out, after work is underway. B, equity impact, that each scenario will include a standardized equity impact analysis assessing effects on student access, opportunities, and outcomes with specific attention to historically underserved students. I know we all believe this. We've talked about it again. This just gets it in writing, makes sure that this analysis is built in from the start. Community engagement, which we've already started. The superintendent shall publish a structured community engagement plan with multiple phases aligned to key decision points, including opportunities for input before and after draft scenarios are developed. Engagement shall include accessible meetings, language access, and public posting of materials and summaries of feedback. And this just establishes the expectation that we'll have this structure, which again, we've already started this, just want to memorialize it, structured, accessible, ongoing, grounded in our stated priorities of transparency, accessibility, and responsiveness to community voice. Timeline, that will have a detailed timeline, one that we've already seen, but that will have a timeline with key milestones that include analysis, scenario development, community engagement, presentation of recommendations, aligned with the operational feasibility. This just ensures that it's structured. And financial transparency, this is something I've been hearing about a lot out in the field. That all proposals will include clearly stated assumptions, one-time implementation costs, and ongoing financial impacts, and shall be made public prior to board action. I know one of the things I'm starting to hear a lot is closing schools doesn't really save any money. Well, I don't know that. I haven't seen any numbers. We haven't seen any numbers. Is it true? Is it not true? I think that just establishing that we will be looking at that from the outset is important, because it is something I hear every day. And then policy alignment. The provisions above do not supersede existing board policies governing school closures, program changes, and boundary adjustments, and are not intended to alter the provisions herein. Thank you, Sharon, for that language. I wanted to make sure that was in here, so if there are any policy conflicts, that this doesn't supersede any of our board policy. So that's it.
Thank you. Just a reminder, we are now currently discussing the amendment, which is the one in red. So we'll go this way. I'm sorry, Student Representative, but you get to have the last word. We'll come at least in round one. So let's go ahead, Director Chase Miller.
I mean, I don't have an issue with anything in the amendment, but to Director Splitt's point earlier, I think that it makes sense to get through the community engagement and then put together something that's reflective of what we've heard from the community. And I don't think that we're far enough along in the process for us to do that right now. I would rather see us pass the original resolution, get this process started, get through engagement sessions, and then take what we heard and bring them back and put some solid guardrails in place that are reflective of what we heard from the community.
Great, thank you. I do want to thank you, Director Lafort, for the changes. I think it reads a lot better. I like it a lot more. I kind of want to repeat the same thing. I actually would want to propose something slightly different, because one of the reasons I'm a little bit feel a little rushed. I'm just going to be honest, because when the original resolution was passed, it went through 3-4 weeks of getting staff review and multiple iterations before we finally put it out. And I feel like this needs it too. And not because I don't disagree. I actually like a lot of the stuff that's put in. I think it needs to be longer, actually, in the next resolution. So, for example, when we do define our guiding principles, this is the stuff that needs to go into the guiding principles. So, and I think we also, just in terms of like trust with the public, need to also wait till we are done with at least the first phase of our public engagement session. Because one of the issues at Kellogg, and I want to thank everybody who came out. Your input was very valuable and really well heard. But in the table that I was with for the first part, a few of the parents pointed out the fact that, hey, we are a district of almost 50% students of color, families of color. Yet at Kellogg, if you saw in the beginning poll, it was 97% white. So we haven't heard from. We only done first number one of four planned engagement sessions. And so if we write up the start of a guiding principle before we hear from everyone, I'm worried about the message saying that we're not listening to them, the people who we haven't heard from yet. And so that's why I'm actually, because I do like how you started this, and also I want to make sure that we do follow best practices. And what best practices usually is, when we write resolutions, we have it vetted with staff. I know that you started this process, but I think it started this week, because one of the things in terms of writing resolutions and directing staff work is that because they're the ones doing the work, we should get their input. And so I don't know how to best do this, but I'm going to tell you what I want to do, and you can tell me if you like it or not. I actually want to move to have the amendments to be considered in the next resolution for our guiding principles. I don't know if that is exactly. I'm going to ask Sharon Tonkray if this is something that is appropriate.
Well, if I'm tracking what you wanted, your motion is actually to.
So I guess I can frame it two ways. I can either motion to have the amendment be part of the next resolution, which is the guiding principles, or I can move to postpone the amendment. And I think my personal desire is that I like what's in here. I think it needs its own resolution.
So procedurally, we still have a motion on the table that probably needs to be resolved, and then you would have another alternative motion. So I understand where you're going, but procedurally you want to do one.
Yeah, I think that's cleaner that way.
other.
Thank you. All right, so then I am done. We'll move to Vice Chair to pass.
Thank you. So I've already heard some of the concerns I had. Specifically, I want to, I would like to keep the language in DB regarding an advisory committee of stakeholders. I think it says community stakeholders. And I know from doing engagement processes in public entities for Metro and the City of Portland that the people that are the closest to the issue, you want to be close to the problem solving. And so I like the additional layer of oversight there. Also, I agree that if we're looking at the resolution and the additions with the amendment, I think those are best presented after we have completed our listening sessions. I wasn't at the Kellogg thing, but it strikes me that we still need to do more listening. And I believe we've just added or will be adding Northeast Portland, which doesn't mean that more people of color will come, but that we do want to be intentional about hearing from all of our communities, again, because we keep hearing about the equity outcomes that we all want. So, yeah, I I think the staff review is a great idea because staff will be carrying out the work.
Director Split.
Oh, thanks. Sorry. Yeah, thank you for bringing this forward. Like, everything in it I generally agree with. I actually feel pretty strongly about keeping DB, the advisory committee, because to me it ensures that we hear from staff, and I think that's vitally important. I also just want to say I wouldn't mind changing the results of this process may include. That sounds reasonable to me. I think that I might get a little bit on a soapbox that I have, but I feel that we have laws in this state that make it hard for us to communicate together as a group. We can only communicate here. We can also communicate in committee. House Bill 4177 is on the governor's desk. She's issued notice of potentially vetoing it, which is a bummer because it would allow us the ability to have more conversations that wouldn't necessarily violate transparency, but might just help us all to be a little bit more on the loop about like agendas and what's coming and what the plan is. Because right now, if we were to have a conversation between, say, you and me on an agenda, we might be violating a committee quorum just like that. So it just creates this really hard dynamic for us to communicate. And then you all have to watch us try to get on the same page up here together all the time. I think the solution for that, especially if the law is not going to change, is working on things like this in committee. And I understand that this was something that was happening toward today when committees weren't necessarily meeting at the right time to get that done or to move that process that way. But I do just want to put it out there that I think using committees as a place where we can get folks on the same page will help us to get on the same page together by the time we get here and avoid this thing posts for a board meeting and then we're going to have to talk about it and have amendments and things like that come up last minute because that's when the thing posted, and it just makes it really, I think, harder for us to work together collaboratively, which I think when we do collaborate, we're often in the same place. So I think saying all of that, where I fall in this is I wouldn't mind at all adding that word change of may if the group agreed to it. I do think that the pieces that are on here, I think would make a great start to that resolution about decision making or decision criteria. And I want to see an equity impact, and I want to see community engagement, and I want to see a timeline and financial transparency and policy alignment. I just feel like the goal of this resolution is literally to just launch the district-wide right-sizing process with our blessing and giving that blessing, and then taking it from here. I also worry a little bit about the language here is to launch, and then it says subject to the following. And I'm concerned that the way that it reads to me is that to launch it, we have to do all these things first. And I actually think we need to launch it and then do all these things, if that makes sense. So just a quick note on semantics that caught me up a little bit when I read this. When did I see it? This morning, last night, whatever that was. And so, again, don't have a problem with any of it. I think we should use it as, if we don't pass the amendment here, then I would just say this becomes, I don't think that we need a motion really unless it would feel better for the authors, but I would just feel comfortable saying let's use this as the start of that next resolution that then also incorporates the input from community, and that we have some sort of process, ideally in a committee, or else we do a work session on it and then it comes up the next time or something like that, where we're not working it out up here when the same time we're going to vote for it, but we like have a chance to work it out, or at least some of us to work out a proposal that we're making to the rest of the group in another setting. Thank you for listening to me talk.
Thank you. Dr. Engelsman.
Thank you. So this, for me at least, all started because the only rendition I had seen was the one that included community members, families, and staff in the enrollment committee. And because I have seen and been told that day of amendments are not taken kindly by the committee or by the board, I sent an email to everyone saying I plan on moving to strike big D, little b, because to me, the idea of an enrollment committee or advisory committee or simply a committee of families and community members, in order to be equitable, at least attempt to be, I imagine suddenly a committee of at least 80 parents, because you couldn't have one school not represented. And the idea of a committee of 80 people getting anything done was impossible to me. But really, one parent per school isn't really enough, because one parent can't speak for that school. And who's choosing which parent it is? It should be the school, because they know who the parents are. And so my concern was that it's not going to go anywhere, and people are going to feel left out, and we want to engage our community. There has since been the new green language that I refer to, and I am completely okay with that, because I do think that our union partners absolutely should be involved in this. And if there is an advisory enrollment committee, whatever it's called, that includes them being at the table to talk about this, principals, they're in their schools, they know their schools, and staff, that's great. So the proposed amendment that Director LaForte wrote, it's great, and then sent to me because I had said I had issues with parts of this, was the timing of it was all kind of wonky. That said, we have already launched our right sizing process. We've already had one engagement session, listening session. We have another 2 already in the books. And then it sounds like there's at least 1 or 2 more happening. I'm sure others perhaps had reached out and said we need to have one in North or Northeast. I certainly reached out to Dr. Armstrong after hearing from parents and families and staff and everybody at Kellogg that Kellogg is a long way from, right? Ida too, in rush hour, is a long way from Northeast. And so I had reached out, and I'm sure others had, and said we need to have something in North and Northeast. So I'm grateful that the district heard that. That said, I'm saying a long thing of saying we don't actually need a resolution today to start a right-sizing process. We have already started it. Dr. Armstrong and her team already have dates on them. They're already having meetings. People are already talking about it. We're already engaging. So to suggest that we need to have 2 resolutions, frankly, one is because we've got it written today, and the other one is because it got written last minute and we want to look at it more and put it through staff. Why don't we just do it all in one 2 weeks from now or a month from now? We don't delay anything. We don't disrupt anything that the district's doing if we don't vote and give our blessing today on a resolution. So I'm not sure why we wouldn't just say, hey, we like what's going on, let's blast the dates out, make sure more people come. And then a month from now, at the next time, or even a work session, we just vote on something that includes all the language that people are already liking. So that's one of my thoughts. The other reason that I think it's really important that we get things memorialized, which we're hearing both by our board and our community members and our union partners, in a resolution as soon as possible, and perhaps the only resolution that we pass right now, is because this resolution that's on the table, the green, not Director LaForte and I's one, but the other one, they talk about a timeline of initiating this no later than 27-28 and then completing within a 3-year period. And so I sort of laid this out for myself. And so that's 27-28, 28-29, 29-30, 30-31 is when this would all be completed. We could have an entirely different board, because in 2027, there's an election. By 2029, there's another election. By the end of this, 2031, there could be 2 new boards. And so the one thing that I have heard time and time again from the SEGC process is that things weren't memorialized. And so now parents are scrambling to find any hint of something under a different administration, under a different board, that they remember hearing somewhere that didn't get memorialized. And so it is our duty, when we hear things, to make sure that a parent, a staff member, a family, a student, a high schooler maybe doing a project, doesn't have to remember, was that on April 14th, 25, or was that April 10th, 24, and then watch a 6-hour board meeting and fast forward to try to find that snippet that they're trying to rely on when they're saying, hey, you promised that you were going to do an equity impact for each scenario and that you're going to show us. And so I guess this was a very long-winded way of saying, if we like all of what, and I'm not going to take any credit for this, you wrote all this, it's great. If we like what Director LaForte has put in the proposed amendment that she and I are bringing, then why do we not just take everything off the table, run everything through staff, and then come back with a process. These are not, there's nothing in here that wouldn't prevent us from having our North Star put down or other guiding, I don't know, like we want kids to be able to walk to schools. That's going to be something that comes out in this process. So I don't know why we don't just, that would be my suggestion.
Are you
Can we
asking?
ask
do
that
you want me to
question
answer?
to Dr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Why do we need to have a resolution today?
Today? Oh, I wouldn't necessarily say that it's time bound for today. I would just say overall it's helpful to have direction, to have the information where the board is as a collective, and as Director Chair Wong opened up saying that, as we've had lots of conversation about it, but I don't know, as a collective, there's been action taken as a group to say, like, here's our direction moving forward. As everyone is trying to find their way in this conversation across the communities and cities to figure out what's happening, lots of interests all over the place. And so it's helpful at some point, sooner than later, to have an anchoring document that speaks to your direction. And that's a guiding document for me and my team.
Can I also answer a little bit your question? Because it sounded like a question. We also, again, to expand upon that, I think typically what happens when the start of right-sizing processes is that you get a lot of pushback. And so when we have a document that the board has voted on and committed to, it helps reduce that pushback, or at least the negative effects of pushback. Like, for example, during the SCGC process, the reason why I have DA, all districts and schools must be included, was because there was a lot of vocal pushback, especially from areas with a lot of privilege, and those areas got excluded from the process because the board caved. So it not only, and because that, it resulted in just a lot of reshuffling of a lot of already dangerously under-enrolled schools. And so having this commitment it allows leadership to hold staff accountable in terms of deadlines. If there is pushback, we're going to get pushback. It also holds us accountable because maybe one of us are going to get cold feet because we heard a lot from one community. And in order to be equitable, we do have to consider the whole picture. And this is why I'm a very strong proponent of DA. So that's a part of your answer. It's also, like was mentioned before, to avoid the pitfalls of the previous. Actually, you answered this own question. I think you pointed out the process of SCGC, DBRAC. One of the biggest issues was that there was a lot of wavering in terms of direction, and that really prolonged and caused a lot of problems. So I don't know if that helps answer your question.
Not really. I mean, it does. I appreciate the thought, but it doesn't really, because everything that's in the amendment is in the green version. So it's not like, well, because there's all these other things that I think are really important to have in there. So it's not like our proposed amendment is saying we don't want to have DA, all district and programs be included. That's in there. It's just sort of expanding on and putting in writing and memorializing, frankly, a lot of the things that we have said that we want to see an equity impact. We want to have a community engagement. We want a timeline. We want, well, maybe not everybody wants no, I think everyone does want the financial transparency and the fiscal impacts. So I just want to highlight that you want DA, we want DA. Like, nobody doesn't want DA. And it sounds like everybody wants DB even with the new green, so.
Great, thank you.
Can I talk out of order as the author? Or am I allowed
To answer a question?
To clarify.
Clarify, yes, thank you. Yes, you may clarify.
Thank you. So I just wanted to, first of all, I'm glad that the response I'm hearing up here is positive, because this was supposed to reflect everyone's point of view and the conversations that we've had up here. So I feel good. It feels good that it feels good to you. And I just wanted to point out that in A, under the decision criteria and analysis, this was specifically written to allow space for us to develop the guiding principles that we've talked about, which I would think would come out of the community engagement process, which we've started. So I would just point out that this is a very broad framework for what we're doing now with the runway for the next resolution, which would be the guiding principles, which would come out of, I would assume, these first few rounds of community engagement. The meeting we just had, I think we have 3 coming up, and anything else that we decide to do in between. I know that some of us are meeting with our PTAs and talking to parents outside of this group. So that was the intent. So I envision another resolution, but that would be the goal of the resolution. Guiding principles born out of the community engagement that we're initiating in this one.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. Let's move on to Director Sullivan.
Wow, a lot has been said. I definitely agree with the May there. That's easy. I like everything in the whole, what you added, what I guess you both added. I'm wondering, why do we have to postpone voting on this second amendment, the redlined amendment? Because why?
We don't have to.
Oh, I mean, it's up to us if we want to.
Okay.
You're asking me a question, right?
Yeah,
So,
I'm asking
okay,
you a
I'm going to
question.
answer a
Or
question.
somebody a question.
The reason is because I just want to follow the main reason, again, like I said before, I like the content of the amendment.
Yeah.
But it's just to continue best practices, which is that when you propose a resolution, and in this case, because there's a lot of things said in the red part, that it should be run through staff and vetted by legal and all these things, and also having time for other board members also to have input. I know that, or unless it came from staff, and which is a different thing. So, but the whole point is that I think it just needs more time to cook.
So
Right.
we could just bring it back in 2 weeks.
Exactly, right. I mean, I'm just going to state my opinion. I am not against any of this. I think we just need to run
Okay.
it through staff.
Well, that's
and maybe
what
even
I
put it in a committee.
propose then, that we bring it back in 2 weeks.
Okay.
With the red line bit.
The whole thing.
Yeah, the whole thing. And that we don't necessarily have to vote on the short one, because 2 weeks isn't very long. Or do you think we need to have the other resolution just so we have it in hand?
Because you're asking me the question, so I'm going
Yes,
to answer.
I'm asking you the question.
Because the red resolution, the amendment, sorry, I'm going to call it the amendment from now on.
Mm-hmm.
The amendment is additive. I don't think it hurts to vote on the original resolution today.
And then just say we will get the longer one vetted and brought in 2 weeks.
Yeah, we can do that, yeah.
Okay, that's what I suggest.
Great, thank you. All right, Student Representative Retorto, thank you for your patience.
All right, this is very fun. So again, support the may instead of will. I would absolutely like to see a scenario where no schools are cut. So definitely support that. I do support the green or the original, the revised version of B of DB. I think that makes a lot of sense. Now, on to the resolution. I agree with Director Engelsman here that I feel like, we have already started this process. And so if it's, I do think it would make sense to pick up this entire policy, and move it. We can look at, and that would allow this amendment to also get its approval. We can then tack the guiding principles into that policy. I think that would make a lot of sense. Also, I do like what's in here, what's in this amendment, and I do think that if we are going to vote on this policy today, that I would vote yes on this amendment, because I do think that that at least the large majority of the stuff in here does act like the kind of things you would see on a launch on a platform, and there is still a lot of room for guiding principles, but a lot of this stuff does seem it does seem like things that go in a policy like this, in terms of, again, like what you would say when you were starting a process like this. But yeah, other than that, just a lot of procedural questions, so I will likely vote yes on whatever ends up coming forward.
Great, thank you. All right, so let's go ahead and. Do you want to go back? Okay, let's go back around again. Director LaForte.
Appreciate everyone's feedback. For me, this is such a significant process. I don't feel comfortable voting yes without the framework in the end, because it is how, when I first read it, I was like, kind of like, and when I got to the end. And again, I wanted to memorialize the conversations that we've already had. It should feel familiar. Like, I'm glad you all are reading it and feeling like, well, I feel like I kind of agree with this and I've heard it all before. That's exactly how it should feel. So I was hoping it was an easy yes, and I'm not necessarily hearing a compelling reason not to move it with the amendment. And then have a separate process for our guiding principles. Like I said, that's born out of a community engagement process that is outlined in our in the amended resolution. As far as DB goes, I'm comfortable with it too, as long as, like, we clarify, like, it was just a little unclear as like who's on it, what's it for, like, what is it, a work group, task force, advisory committee? I think we may need to decide, because they are different things within, you know, a governance system. So yeah, I'm open to putting that back in. So.
Thank you. Director Chase Miller.
We keep talking about memorializing the process, and to my way of thinking, memorializing the process means, I mean, the initial resolution is where we are right now, what the point we've come to, what we've agreed to as a board, and it is serving as that anchor to kind of mark this moment and the work going forward. I think whether the amended pieces are added as an amendment to the initial resolution or as a separate resolution, I don't know if I have a strong opinion about that either way, but I still do have a strong opinion that I want to hear from more community before I commit to what is here, not because I have a problem with it, but because I think that we haven't heard broadly from community, and other parts of the community have things to add to this. And if we're really trying to be reflective of the voices in our community, all the voices in our community, I think it makes sense to move forward, bring back what we've heard, see what additions we might make to the amended language based on that, and move forward either amending the initial resolution, but I think probably having a second resolution that is reflective of community voice and how we're integrating that into the work. I don't think it's a big deal to have another resolution. I think there will be many resolutions that are part of this process. And back to the point about memorializing stuff, they will be reflective of where we are in the process when we vote to adopt them.
Thank you. I also have the same, again, I think this is a start. I think that, sorry, I'm talking about the amendment. I think it's a start. I think I also want to share the same feelings that I want to make sure that we hear from all of our engagement sessions first before we compile the list. I think this is the start of the list. And then I'll make this quick. The third is, reading through this 3, 4, 5 times, there are still some lines in here that I'm a little bit worried about some unintended consequences. And so that's why I really want more time to kind of have this vetted and just let it cook a little bit longer. Thank you. Vice Chair DePass.
Yes, thank you. So, I mean, I would be in favor of taking a vote on the initial resolution with the revision to DB, just as a kind of symbolic and practical way of moving forward together as a board. I'm concerned about the timing of bringing something back on the 28th, because our last engagement session is on the 27th. And so we're asking staff to stay up all night, or whenever they would complete it after the 27th, which doesn't sound practical or a reasonable request of an employee. I'm also concerned about reading through it and wanting to stay close to my own values. And I don't like when I hear people say, I think we all agree, because a lot of times my voice isn't reflected. But I think that what we've heard about this process is we do want to hear from community members. We want to hear from people that we haven't heard from. And we, rather than memorializing our own values, we have said that we would be intentional about listening to others. And so to me, the resolution that has these A through F considerations, I feel really needs to be done after we've heard what we've heard and after we've heard from those communities that are historically have been harmed by processes just like this.
Thank you. Director Split.
Thanks. I don't think I need to talk again, but I do have a question, and can we like raise hands? Is that allowed? Who would like to see E changed to may? Okay. So whatever happens after this conversation, before we do whatever may come next, depending on the outcome of this conversation, we need to do that. Thank you.
Can I ask about that though? I hear the may. The monumental lift does not necessarily need to result in a school closure, right? I guess I just wonder, because on there it's listing all the things. It's program consolidation, closures, like and or, I think, to give some wiggle room. So the may would suggest that we could go through all of this work and all of the resources and it result in nothing. I want to be sure that that's how you all are feeling about this, which is great because it'll help me and the team manage our expectations.
Since I'm the one who just brought it up and like the change, I think if the list included some more things, then I would be fine with it saying will. But to me, because it's school and program closures and or consolidations, like, what if in the end we just decide we're going to do a bunch of boundary changes and some middle school changes? Do those count as a K-8 moves to a middle school? Does that count as a consolidation? So I think to me,
I think a program change. I think that's how we count it. I would just wonder.
And that's a program change. So if I were to say like school and program closures, changes and or consolidations,
and add boundaries, I'm just
sure.
wondering.
Like if the law, but I think by saying may, we're kind of saying like, listen, everybody, let's be real. This is what we're talking about here. But I heard actually, I feel like I might have heard from, let's say 5 people on Saturday being like, are we sure we have to close schools? And I think just, that's why I think the may is there. Like I see the look on your face.
Well, just some anxiousness because it's a lot. I think I've had one-on-one conversations with each of you about the toll that this would take. And I would say that as we go through these engagements, if there's something where you want a longer runway or maybe not yet sure about it, it would be great time to bring that up now, because as you all know, we have a lot of big things ahead of us. And so I am happy to move at your will. I want to know what that will is. And also, I think that's reasonable to expect that at the end of the result, one of the things could be boundary changes. And I just wonder, is that just adding a couple of words to E? But still having strong language that as a result of all of this work, something will happen.
Yeah, I get what I totally get what you're putting down, and I think it's just the like, we're guaranteed going to close a school just strikes me as like, a little strong. Yeah. Anyway, lots of people want to talk. Sorry now.
After that response, how many people want to lower their hands? Okay.
What? Any boundaries? Yeah.
Okay, we can, when we get to that part, we can have someone motion to change that language at that part. But let's kind of get through, we have the amendments on the table. I want to get through this discussion first. So Director Engelsman.
Thank you. The reason that I asked to come back around was because it struck me that the reason that we would vote on this, the green, and not the red, is because the red hasn't had time to sort of go through the process. And that is setting up sort of a process that I think is problematic because, as Director Split has so aptly put, we can't talk about it in advance. And so I think a problem, and I have frankly seen a number of times where a resolution has come forward and there's been amendments because we can't do them in advance, and they don't pass for various reasons, but often I hear we didn't hear about it in time, or there wasn't a chance to vet it, or all these things. And so if we truly do want to have chances to vet it, I think either all resolutions go through policy, as someone said, so that there's a chance
committee.
Committee, I meant committee. All resolutions go through a committee, so there is a chance to talk it through and everybody can be involved in the process, because simply saying, because we had no opportunity to make amendments before Monday, because these were given to us, the original was given to us, I don't know, Thursday, Friday, and then it's the weekend, and we've been told not to email things in the weekends. And so suddenly it's like we can't, well, to staff, we have been told definitely not to send emails to.
May I just jump in, because I know that staff was mentioned. The only thing that I think that we would need, and we have our legal counsel here, is to know that it is like legally sound, or the wording is appropriate
And
to
I
meet.
And Director LaForte did send it
I
through
did send it to
legal.
legal.
So if there's no concerns on the legal, I mean, staff is happy to accept whatever a resolution that you all vote on.
I think my whole point is that if we are not going with red, even though we all kind of like it, simply because red didn't have enough time to be thought about and looked at, then I think there's a problem with the way that we're doing resolutions, because it's not giving everybody an opportunity to have amendments, everyone think about them. And so maybe we want to set up a procedure where a resolution is brought to the table like it is today, amendments are brought to the table, everything's talked about, and then we all go home and think about it, and it's put on the agenda the next time, because that precludes what I see happening today and have seen in the past, where the original amendment, or excuse me, the original resolution is what's voted through because it's what was written by one or two people in time. So that's all I had. I just wanted to say, like, I think we have a problem with, given the constraints we have with the public meeting laws, I think we have a problem with how we are doing resolutions, because they're simply not giving an opportunity for amendments and enough process through those amendments, because sometimes they're great, like this.
Thank you. Director Sullivan?
Well, I'm kind of where I was before. I would vote on it. I'd be happy voting the whole thing in today. And especially when I just heard we don't have to go to staff. It's legal. We're okay. I could vote on the whole thing today. And did we decide we do want May? Yeah, but we could add possible boundary changes. Yeah. I don't know what you're going to put forth to vote on. If you make changes on this and put it forward to vote, I will vote on it. If you put the whole thing forward, I will vote yes on both. So I'm there.
Thank you.
And I think I don't think, what else are we going to come up with with more engagement? There's so much there. And if there is, we can add something. So I don't see why we have to wait.
Thank you. All right, Student Representative Retorto.
Yeah, I'd just like to say again, I agree completely with what Director Engelsman said. I have the same concerns about the amendment process, because it seems like I've just noticed that a few times this year, it seems like a little bit of a similar thing has played out, and so yes, I would support, if we were going to vote on this today, I would only support it in the case that that this amendment is attached. Or I would support just moving the entire resolution to a different meeting, and that's all.
Thank you. Since this is, I just want a clarifying point, since this is the resolution that I am presenting. The original resolution was uploaded a week ago, and so there was time, but the amendments were uploaded yesterday at 5 p.m. And so that's kind of the big difference in terms of process. All right, so right now we have the amendments on the table, and so we are going to be voting on whether to add the amendments onto the resolution. Is that clear? However, I did hear that some people wanted to not do striking DB.
We need to just vote on the amendment, I think, right?
Yeah, so
You're-
let's vote on the
am I
amendment and
wrong?
we can change DB later if we want. All right.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
You have one of two choices. You can either vote on the amendment as is, or you can have somebody else make a motion to amend
Oh, yeah, thank
the boundary change language. If that's what you want to do, it might be simpler if that is a technical correction you want to make.
I was thinking that DB, if someone wants to make a motion to not amend DB, they could do it now, and then whether this passes or not, then we vote on the boundary, because the boundary is on both. I mean, sorry, the DE is the same on both.
So my suggestion, just for clarity, if you vote on this and it passes, then you're going to need to amend again to
Got it.
fix the boundary language. I just want to call that the language in E.
All right. Does anybody
And
want to
if-
move and make a motion to change either DB or DE?
I would make a motion to, in the proposed amendment by Director LaForte, to adopt what I'm referring to as the green language into DB on the proposed amendment.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. We don't need discussion. We can just vote on that now, right? All right. How many, please say, or sorry, all in favor of adding the green version of DB into the amendment, vote yes.
Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Abstentions? Student Representative Retorto?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. One abstention. Thank you. We have, oh gosh, this is a hard count. 6 yeah.
And I have another
6
motion.
yes, 0 no's, 1 abstention, and Student Representative Retorto voting yes. We have another motion.
Yes, I would also move to, where is it? Under the resolution. Oh, no, it's here, sorry. It's in E. I would move to add the language after the words program closures, comma, consolidations or boundary changes.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion on that? I just want to ask if Dr. Armstrong, Superintendent Armstrong, if you have any more thoughts, considerations, worries about adding just boundary?
So just so I'm clear, so basically the result of this process will include school and program closures and/or consolidations and/or boundary changes? Is that?
I think what she read was program closures, consolidations, or boundary changes.
Got it, okay.
As soon as you add a third thing, the and/or suddenly says there will be
I know,
school
I'm like-
closures. And yeah, it gets all crazy.
All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
All opposed? Abstentions? Me? Student Representative Retorto?
Yes.
Thank you. The change with adding the word boundaries has been approved by a vote of 6-0 to 1, with Student Representative voting yes. All right, we will now
Chair Wong,
vote.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but can I clarify who seconded both of those last amendments? And I did not hear who said no on the last one. So I just need.
Nobody said no.
Oh,
I abstained.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Director LaForte seconded my first motion, and Director Sullivan seconded my second motion.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will now vote on whether to add the amendments to the resolution. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 No.
We haven't gone there yet. Sorry, let's do that over here. Please, all in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All opposed?
No.
No.
Abstentions? Student Representative Retorto?
Yes.
Thank you. The amendment was not approved by a vote of 3 to 4, with Student Representative Retorto voting yes. Now we have the original resolution on the table. However, since we voted on the amendment, those wording changes did not get moved to this, correct?
Right. You can.
That's what I was worried about.
So may I make a motion?
Thank you.
Okay. May I move that the green one. Sorry, resolution number 7296. I'm getting punchy. E, be adjusted to read. The result of this process will include school and program closures, consolidations, or boundary changes.
I thought we changed it to May.
No. We did not change it to May.
We
We
did not
changed it
change it
to
to May.
will, but then we expanded the list to include things that we all think are more likely to
Oh,
happen.
because it's an or. You could move
Yeah,
to May.
yeah, could,
Okay.
Because I don't believe we will have the votes to make it May. What we changed, I'm just trying to match what we just did, which was the result of this process will include school and program closures, consolidations, or boundary changes.
Okay.
Do I have a second?
Because it's not a for sure.
yeah, yeah.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Sorry.
Thank you. We have Director Split moves and Director Engelsman seconds, correct? All right. No other motions, correct?
Well,
Right.
The motion's already on the table, right?
Do we vote on that motion, or you said
No,
another motion?
someone was talking about May.
Yeah, I'll move it. Why not? We may as well vote on that instead of
Okay.
like conversation about we don't have
All
the
right.
votes. I'll
Director
move to change
Ingalls-
the language to May.
If we vote on it, doesn't pass, then are we gonna revote on will?
Yeah.
What, we have to revote
No.
on will?
It does, if it doesn't pass, it is will.
It
Oh,
is
okay,
will.
got it. Okay.
All right, we have Director Engelsman moves to change in under E, will to May. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Director Sullivan seconds. We will now vote on the proposed amendment to change will to may under E, capital E. All those in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All those opposed?
No.
No.
Abstentions? Student Representative Retorto?
No.
I did not hear Director Sullivan's vote.
5-2.
Thank you. 5,
5-2.
okay, so it did not pass by
Did not
5 to
pass.
2,
Right.
correct?
Right, yeah.
Thank you. And Student Representative Retorto voting, can you repeat your vote again? I got distracted.
No.
Thank you, no. All right, we'll now vote on the original resolution as amended
With the words boundary changes.
with the words boundary changes added. Wait, we didn't vote on that yet.
We did not vote on that.
Yeah, we did not vote on that yet.
We voted on an amendment, not on this one.
Yes.
I made the motion, you motioned, and then we never did the vote.
Yeah, so do we have anybody who wants to add the word boundary to E?
It's already on the table.
Oh, that's on the table. Sorry, thank you. All right, let's vote on adding boundary. So E shall read, the result of this process will include school and program closures and or consolidations or boundary.
That's not.
Or sorry,
I'm sorry, I'll do it again.
thank you.
The results of this process will include school and program closures, consolidations, or boundary
Or
changes.
boundaries. Thank you.
Because as soon as you have the and or there, I think with that many, you all of a sudden are guaranteeing all of them, except for the last one.
100% agree.
Yeah.
All right, we'll be now voting on the addition of boundaries. All those in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 All those opposed? Abstentions? Me? Student Representative Torto?
Yes.
Thank you. The addition of boundaries has passed by a vote of 6-0 with 1 abstention and Student Representative Retorto voting yes. Thank you. Now we will vote on the resolution 7296 as amended. All those in favor of resolution 7296 as amended, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. All
Yes.
those opposed?
No.
No.
Abstentions? Student Representative Retorto?
No.
Thank you. Resolution 7296 passes with a vote of 5-2 with Student Representative Retorto voting no. Thank you.
I'm worried I'm going to forget. Can I say something really quick?
Yeah, go for it.
Can we please, later we're going to have the future agenda thing. On the 28th, when we meet, can we have a topic of not voting on a next resolution, but talking about what the next resolution will look like? Thank you. I just don't want to forget to bring it up later.
Great.
And then I would also love to talk on that note about like who writes these.
Process.
Yeah, I mean,
Yep, agreed.
So plus, just, I think informational about how resolutions are created and introduced. Correct?
Informational, by that I mean a discussion. I don't
Discussion,
need any
okay,
presentation
discussion,
by the
yeah, yeah.
district, just
Okay.
for us to converse about it. And, I mean, if we like some of this language, then I don't want to see someone else taking a stab at what Director LaForte spent a bunch of time doing.
Agree. Thank you. Added. How about let's take a 5-minute break. We will reconvene at 8:32. Thank you. I think so. Oh yeah, now I hear my voice. Thank you. Director Split?
Yeah, I just wanted to say to the pause parents that are in the room, we will continue to take that long to talk about all sorts of things. And so we want you to know that we see you, and we promise that we will think of you and imagine that you're still here when we get to that agenda item so that you can go home to your families. Thank you.
I think they're enjoying.
Yeah. Hopefully she know you can stay if you want, but we just don't want you to feel like you need to.
All right, next up we have the calendar for the regular board meetings for the 2026-27 school year. Every spring, the board adopts a regular meeting schedule to ensure transparency, consistency, and accessibility for our community. The proposed calendar schedules regular board meetings to begin at 6 p.m. on Tuesdays here at the Dr. Matthew Prophet Education Center. The calendar has been aligned with the district's academic calendar to the extent possible, taking into account major breaks, holidays, and key dates in the school year. You'll note one exception: the November 4th meeting is scheduled on a Wednesday due to Election Day. I also want to note, in case you haven't missed it, there have been a couple changes. Thank you, Director Engelsman, for proposing this. One of the changes is to move the first meeting after winter break a week later, so staff doesn't have to work over winter break. That's very much appreciated. I don't know if you want to talk about the others. And the other change was also moving the December. Sorry, my thing's still loading. December 1st meeting to the 8th. That will be back-to-back meeting, which can be stressful to staff. So I just want to make a note to remind, let's take it easy on staff that week.
I don't think anything's going to be going on then anyway. Sorry, I'm just kidding. Sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, never say never.
That's the hope. That is kind of when we approve the new consolidation.
Yeah.
So just so you know.
Can you imagine coming back from break and having that one day after we get back? No.
So good call. Thank you. Those changes were taken into account. Let's put this on the table. Do I have a motion and second to adopt Resolution 7290, calendar of regular board meeting school year 2026-27?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Director Engelsman moves and Director Split second. Oh, sorry. Thank you. Director Sullivan moves and Director Split seconds. Is there any public comment on the calendar?
No.
Thank you. Board discussions?
I just want to say thank you. I in my one-on-one with Dr. Armstrong, I brought this up too because it was really important for me, especially given the magnitude of what I expect will be that early December meeting. That not only for the board members who are trying to review all the materials, which was hard last year, but for the families and community members who are going to be waiting for things to get posted, and if they're posted on the Tuesday or Wednesday, and then it's Thanksgiving holiday, and then the Friday, and people have kids home. I was just really thinking about the community members for whom there might be some big changes and wanting to be able to do this not during a holiday week. So I'm really grateful to the district, to staff for being willing to do back-to-back meetings so I could propose this change. I just wanted to publicly say that.
Yes. And I think I also want to add that I think staff greatly appreciate your proposal of moving that January 5th meeting to the 12th so that they don't have to work over winter break. Yeah. So thank you for that as well.
We didn't have one this year, right after when we got back.
Yeah, because
So-
last year I proposed the exact same thing.
Oh, because I was kind of taken, I was like, oh my God, we had this big break, and now it's,
Where are we? Oh, yeah. So if there's no more board discussion, we can go ahead and vote on the calendar. The board will now vote on Resolution 7290, calendar of regular board meetings, school year 2026-27. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Abstentions? Student Representative Retorto?
Yes.
Thank you. Resolution 7290 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with Student Representative Retorto unofficially voting yes. Thank you. Next up, we have the second reading of public contract rules. This is second. We had the first reading of proposed changes on the March 10th board meeting, and draft changes were open to public comment for a minimum of 21 days. By voting on the approved revision proposals, this will remove the duplicative. Actually, do you want me to let you introduce this? I'm sorry.
I just have a comment, but
Okay.
go ahead.
I'll finish reading.
Yes, please.
Yeah. The revision proposed will remove the duplicative amendment reporting requirement, since we already approved amendments of 125% or more over the initial contract amount. This will also bring the offer of judgment rule into alignment so that the limits match board policy 8.60.21-P, which allows the superintendent to settle up to $75,000 without extra reporting. Let's put this on the table. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt Resolution 7291? Resolution to amend the district's public contracting rules.
So moved.
Director Chase Miller moves.
I'll second.
Vice Chair DePass seconds. Thank you. Is there any public comment?
No.
Okay, and then
I have a question.
I'll give it. Did you have anything you want to say, and then I'll bring
I
it over
wanted to
Sullivan.
I wanted to address a question I received about some.
Go ahead.
Oh, because is it comment? Thank you. So I got a question about a lot of text that was removed out of this policy on. There's extra credit if you know what pages they're on. They're on pages 95, 124, and 183 and 184. So this was a 186-page document to read through. I hope everybody enjoyed it. That language is redundant, and it's struck from the policy because it appears in other places and it's redundant. I think the question, the answer I gave you was because it didn't align with the Oregon Revised Statutes, and it's actually, the language is redundant, so it's being taken out. It doesn't change anything substantively.
Okay.
Director
'cause
Sullivan?
There was an awful lot taken out, and with nothing in its place.
It's already, what's in its place is there, and so anything that has a red line through it on pages 95, 124, 183, and 184 is redundant and appears elsewhere in the document.
In the document, okay.
But you'd have to read it to see it.
Yeah, right.
I did, and I don't see where does this,
This is a
where does
question,
this
correct?
appear elsewhere in the?
Yeah. Thank you.
in the
Yep. It's okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I'm just wondering where it appears elsewhere, because I do have it marked on 95 and 183. Where is it in the document, making these appearances duplicative?
Can you respond, Tancre?
I didn't want to jump in.
Yeah.
It's
No, go
actually,
ahead.
I don't believe it's explicitly stated in the document. It was a law change. And that was what the policy was amended at the time, and it didn't take out this language. This is superseded by the legal standards now.
So the legal standards would be what the state allows? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Okay.
The state requires, I think is how I would say it.
So the state requires what?
Let me get the staff memo out, I'm sorry. This is going to be, hang on, I'm sorry, I don't have the whole thing, all 10 pages up. Let me say it this way. The law changed several years ago. The policy was amended. This is redundant language to what the law requires, and I'd have to go back to the staff memo to find out exactly what it says. I'm sorry.
So the law requires that, I'm talking out of order. We have a new system.
All right. Thank you. Well, I think we're starting with Director Chase Miller.
Trying to get there.
I don't have anything.
Thank you. I also don't have anything either, kind of took my time over the 21-day period to read it all slowly, and I didn't retain anything. So, Vice Chair to pass.
No, just that it sounds like we need to follow up with Director Lafort on. Do you want the revised statute, or what would be helpful for you?
Yes.
Okay, I can follow up with that for you and send that to you by email what the statute is and where the change was that predated the current change.
Okay.
More good reading. Thank you.
Director Split?
I'm good.
Director Engelsman?
Thank you. So something that I brought up at the policy committee meeting when we talked about this, and I don't think you were there. I think another lawyer was there. And I'm still struggling to fully understand, and so I'm hoping you can help me get all the way to it today. And I should open this up again. A concern I brought up then, and I still have now, is that in that red line that talks about, hold on, I'm going to go to page 95 because I remember that was it.
That's the first one that comes up.
So, yeah, so reporting requirements for I did ask this in the policy committee, and an answer might have shown up in my inbox and I didn't see it, so I'm going to ask it again today.
Can I catch up to where you are? So I'm reading the language, page 95.
Yeah, I'm just on page 95. It's the red line that's struck because of the change in the law.
Right.
The concern I had at the policy committee, and the concern I have still today, is that if we as a board adopt a 500,000, let's say 500,000 because the number is right in front of me, $500,000 contract, and it's gone through board approval. This was a question I asked. If that contract needs amending by, let's say, 10%, that never comes back to the board. Because it's just 50K. Okay, so if we approve a $1 million contract and a 10% increase comes back, that's $100,000.
Right.
That never comes back before the board. There's no, right? Because there's no requirement that any amendment of any amount, even if it's a $60 million contract and a 10% increase is 600,000. Like, we're never going to see any amendment to any contract anymore, right? Because once we approve it, it doesn't matter how much it's amended by.
No.
Okay.
That was the change in the law. So it's what you will see is everything 125% or more. And it's, I think, the conversation at the policy committee, I think I was there, and so was Senior Counsel Courtnage.
Mm-hmm.
It's the ones between 100 and 124% that you won't necessarily see as amendment,
regardless of the amount of that.
Right.
Okay.
And it's a percentage of whatever the underlying contract was. And then I think you asked for information, and that's what we did follow up with you, was the list of the contracts. You would have a sense of what they were. The ones that were between 100 and 124.
Okay.
The ones that are 125 or more come back to the board.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for helping me remember this.
Sure.
Okay. So I still remain concerned that there's seems like a crack in the policy and the ORS that talks about 125. I remain concerned about amendments that are 101 to 124% over what we initially approve, because that could be a significant amount of money, and it could be over the 150 that has to come in front of us, but we would never see it regardless of the number, because it's between 1% and 24% increase. And a 24% increase of a contract, whether it's a $30 contract or a $300 million contract, is a significant quarter increase to what we originally approved. And so the idea that a contract could be amended 24% increase, aka 1 quarter increase, without us ever knowing about it, remains a concern of mine. And so I would like to see in our policy something that says any contract amendment is in front of us. I don't know how to phrase it because I'm still having trouble articulating it, but the idea that any contract can be amended, because it could be just amended perpetually by 20% and we'd never see it. You see
No,
what
I wanted
to just point out, I was just looking back at our meeting. I'm looking at board book for March 31st, where we voted in a number of amendments on contracts as part of our expenditures. They were on the consent agenda, and you can see here, and I'm trying to do the math quickly, this is definitely under, we amended millions of dollars of, I don't know if you noticed that in our expenditures. So I'm wondering if it would be solved by having a report of anything through purchasing that could be, do we have to discuss it, or could we just be, it could be shared with us? Especially because we have so much, we have good reason to do that because we have a lot of money going through the district. But is that a report that we could request? I don't know, on a regular cadence. I don't know if it's a quarterly or monthly. How much burden do we want to put on people to do those 100 to 124%?
Is Chief Morrison, do you want to weigh in on that? And while she's walking down here, if I could clarify, I didn't mean to interrupt you, I apologize. It can't be amended perpetually. It can only be amended for a total of 24%. So you can't keep adding it up. Purchasing and contracting will flag that and then have it come back to you. So it's 24%, and the proposal, the language here doesn't change what currently exists. You would be making an amendment, an additional reporting or requirement that doesn't exist, that's not affected by this amendment one way or the other. I just want to clarify those two things.
Hello, yes, and we can add to our monthly financial report. You know that we're getting in that cadence now, so we can provide some level of procurement reporting. Probably need to work with someone to get some parameters around what would be most useful, but that is something that we can provide.
Great.
That would solve for me.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Problem solved.
Director Sullivan?
Yeah, that answers my question. Thank you.
Student Representative Torto?
Yeah, I didn't read this because I have school, so I'll be abstaining from the vote.
Thank you. I won't call on you. How about that? Director LaForte?
I think you answer my question. So at 125%, it always comes back to the board for approval, and you can't perpetually amend it for lower amounts like 10%, 50%. Okay, yeah, those are my concerns.
Cycling it through, yes.
And I did pull the staff memo. I think it was from the February, it was dated February 9th from the policy committee meeting in February that outlines this as well. So, yeah.
Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't get there quickly enough.
No, I only got there because I talked to you about this yesterday.
The ORS in there.
That was helpful.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Is listed, yes. ORS 279A, B, and C.
Oh, the whole thing. Gotcha.
279A, B, and C.
So there isn't actually, that's just a chapter. 279A is a chapter 2. There isn't an actual statute for the 125.
That covers public purchasing and contracting.
Yeah. I'm still looking, and I think Director LaForte probably is still looking for the actual statute that was changed. The law was changed about 125.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I think
that's out of my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
It's not out of yours. No. It is not in my head at the moment, but it is not out of my wheelhouse, and we will follow up, yes.
I just have a quick question. I think if I remember from policy committee, this mostly, all these changes follow what's considered recommendations from, I forgot what it was called, the Government Procurement Association or whatnot, correct?
Yes, that's what they were, and that's what these changes are, with the exception of the offer of judgment rule, which is a staff recommendation.
Got it, thank you. That's what I thought. All right, is there any more board discussion? You don't need to, we're not waiting on anything, correct? All right. Let's go ahead and vote. The board will now vote on Resolution 7291, resolution to amend the district's public contracting rules. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. Opposed? Thank you. Resolution 7291 is approved by a vote of 7-0 with, that's it. All right, next on our agenda is we are receiving an update from the Portland Clean Energy Fund grant. I'll hand this over to Superintendent Armstrong.
Absolutely, thank you. We're excited to provide you with an update on our work with the Portland Clean Energy Fund. This is an exciting opportunity to share how we're leveraging community-supported resources to invest in our schools, our students, and our climate goals. These funds will support energy-efficient upgrades and green schoolyards, improvements across a number of our schools. And so I just want to note that this revenue grant is on the consent agenda, which you'll be approving later on this evening. And so to walk us through this, we have Chief of Staff Deborah Kafori and team.
Good evening, directors. Deborah Kafori, Chief of Staff, and I'm here tonight to share exciting news regarding our climate initiatives, and I'm joined by Senior Director of RISE, Joanna Evanson. I also want to give a big shout out to Kat Davis, the Climate Justice Court Manager, and also to Robin Ferrone, Director of Strategic Partnerships, who really ushered this through a laborious process, shall we say. Since there's a detailed memo from Dr. Franco included in your board books, I'm just going to hit on a few highlights. This is the second Portland Clean Energy Fund, also known affectionately as PCEF, grant awarded to PPS. Our first grant received in 2020 was awarded to PPS as part of the PCEF Climate Investment Plan. This award included $19 million to fund student-led climate initiatives and physical improvements for projects that reduce greenhouse gas emissions and enhance climate resiliency. If you're interested, an update on the status of these funds will be provided at the FIO committee at the April 21st meeting. So tonight we announce an additional PCEF grant. The Multnomah Education Service District, also known as MESD, will serve as the fiscal agent for the PCEF Collaborating for Climate Action Grant Award. This funding is dedicated to energy efficiency upgrades and green schoolyard projects across Portland schools. PPS applied for and won this competitive grant in collaboration with MESD and 4 other school districts. The total award is $70 million, approximately, with PPS's share totaling approximately $25.5 million. I'm sure you all will agree with me that this investment represents a significant opportunity to provide much-needed improvements to our schools. Thank you. And we are happy to answer any questions that you may have. Or you can just talk and pat yourself on the back.
Questions? We can
clap and say, woohoo! We're going to do such a great job on this so that we can get more PCEF funds because we need it.
Thank you. I just want to apologize. I think if we had this presentation about 2 hours ago, we'd be like,
You know what?
pooping our
That's why I
pants.
didn't go through the slide deck. I figure you have it. You know, you.
Right. It is 9 p.m.
The
but
questions of
this is awesome.
how did we do such a great job? Well, we did a great job.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks staff. Kat,
Thank
I
you.
can see Kat.
I'll ask
Thank
you
you.
a question about it. We'll keep it quick though. So we got the grant in hand. We're not gonna knock it out of the ballpark. What sort of process should we expect going forward on actually getting projects done on the ground? And if it's all in the memo, you can just say it's in the memo.
It may or may not all be in the memo, but it is laborious. We have to create proposals, then they are reviewed, then they are approved, then we are funded, then we have to do the work, and then reconcile the work. So that's each chunk of work. So it will take time. We will use the entire duration of the grant to get the work done.
There's also pretty strict reporting requirements for PCEF funds. So
Correct.
There'll be regularly reports back to the fund. And if you're not familiar with the fund, I just encourage anybody here that's curious to look up the website and look at the climate investment plan, look at the communities that it targets and the focal groups. And it's a really great thing that our community supports, and it's great that they're supporting PPS.
Yeah, and there's a lot of good things we can do with it, but everything does need to align with what the PCEF guidelines are.
Is this part of the, I know there was something where students would think of a project, and then is that where the money's coming from for their project?
Yes, that's the piece. That was our first PSEF grant that we got even without applying. They just gave it to us. And then this is the second tranche of funding that was a competitive grant that we went into with MESD as the fiscal sponsor.
Yeah, and part of that was, I think they were having trouble getting the money to pay the teachers that were were supporting the students, but that worked out finally, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
it did.
Okay.
So
That
the
sounded
yeah.
like great projects.
You will soon, I hope, have a briefing on how the year ended with those student-led projects. And actually, thank you. There is a. I was going to write this down. Kat, when is it?
Kat, there's Kat.
April 23rd.
The event's next week.
Yes, you've all been invited next week, April 23rd, to the student showcase, where you will get to see all the amazing student-led initiatives. And I know that our own superintendent will be there giving a rousing speech to all of our students and families.
And to celebrate wins, 100% of the 37 eligible schools all submitted proposals.
There you go. Yay, thank you.
And it's at OMSI.
And
right?
it's at OMSI on April 23rd at 5:30.
Thank you.
I think someone gave me homework to say something at that, and I'm a little nervous.
PSEF rocks.
Yeah, I love OMSI.
That's all. Just putting it on the record. Nobody should put it toward things that aren't climate related.
Where are we next? I think Chief Morrison can stay comfortable because we're moving into our budget training, right? But I'll hand this over to Superintendent Armstrong.
Yep, thank you. It's just a very important opportunity to ground ourselves in the fundamentals of our budget development and approval process, especially as we prepare for the work ahead in the coming months. And so I'll turn it over to Chief Morrison to kick it off. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I'm going to, for the slides that we are going to be looking at tonight, I'm going to go kind of quickly through the ones that should look very familiar to you. Kara, are we going to? Excellent. So last year we provided budget training to our Community Budget Review Committee members in a virtual session. And in retrospect, we never offered that to the board. So especially with our new electeds, want to make sure that you guys have the same like level set that we share with the community when it comes to process. Again, I'm going to move fairly quickly for the sake of time through the slides that should be familiar. So our agenda tonight, really talking about the why, grounded in local budget law, the budget process, a little bit about the technical components of our book and how that reads and how it's shared with you and the community, and then our budget calendar and activities. So local budget law dictates all of the publications and the cycle that we have because we are publicly funded, and the local budget law is administered by the Department of Revenue. They establish standard procedures for all publicly funded agencies. They outline our programs and fiscal policies. And they require us to provide estimates of both revenue and expenditures in very specific formats and publications that we do in a very specific timeline. Definitely encourage citizen involvement to make sure that folks know what their resources are being used for. And then the ability to control the spending of public funds. And so the budget document we have, it's a financial plan, just like you would develop for your home. It's for a 1-year period, July 1st through June 30th. It's all based on good faith estimates of both revenue and expenditures. So again, anchoring back to that, if the numbers change, that's because actual data has overwritten our projected information, and so we're going to provide you with those updates. So it does at times feel like a moving target. It's the budget is the basis for appropriations at the major fund and function level, and so there is a chart of accounts that's prescribed to us through the Oregon Department of Education that is used by all school districts in Oregon, and so that's when our financial data is reported to the state. They can see statewide how much was spent on instruction, how much was spent on support services, and the different objects or activities that we do within the budget. All right, you have seen this on our budget engagement, so we'll keep moving. A reminder, our budget principles, we did invite CBRC members to view this meeting in person or online or recorded so that they would get access to the same level of training. Our improvement plan goals. And so this is the part that I really wanted to center us on tonight, is the development rules and processes. We've talked a lot about rules and budget development, all of those inputs that come through you, through the community, to the superintendent who then administers the budget. This slide is super text heavy, and I'm sorry about that. I tried to put a chart on there just to liven it up a little bit. But this is really the critical steps to our budget development. We have staff that are focused just on providing estimates based on the newest information as it's coming in all the time, whether it's our experience, the activities that we're spending our money on, or the changes, kind of external changes that influence our revenue. A surplus or deficit is identified. We're currently in a deficit mode. I think everyone's well aware of that. And then leadership is engaged. So I work with Dr. Armstrong and the chiefs to see appropriate next steps for how to close a budget gap. We go ahead and start sharing the information with the community at large. We begin our preliminary staffing per our negotiated agreement timelines, which is earlier than when we proposed the higher level budget document to you, knowing that we are making changes within those higher level appropriation amounts that we have determined. Our community engagement includes CBRC and the TSCC hearing, and then eventually you will vote to approve and adopt the budget. We haven't had that not happen. It is going to be a challenging season, but I am confident that we will do that as well. We have to adopt a budget prior to July 1st so that we have authorization to spend dollars. All right, budget assumptions. So just getting this out in front of everyone. Everything is built on assumptions, and those are estimates based on the most recent information that we have available, which does change over time. On the revenue side, we have our fund balance, which we've estimated we will begin the next year with because we end the year at a certain amount. So those things have to be true. Our local revenue, property taxes, all of those things are moving targets. Our state sources are a little bit more stable once we're in the second year of a biennium, but in the legislative long session, that can be really challenging to pin down as well. And then our other general fund incomes are interest earnings, fees, and indirect rates, which is an overhead percentage that we are authorized to charge to grants. On the expenditure side, we have our contingency, which is really what we are targeting for an end fund balance, but that we budget it as contingency. And then you'll see those expenditures broken out in two separate ways, totaling the same amount. One is by function. Again, that's categorically a requirement of the Oregon Department of Education and local budget law, and then by object, which is that more granular salaries, associated payroll costs, services, supplies. Sorry for the lag. The budget book components, you guys who have done this process before are probably well familiar with. We have 2 volumes. Our first volume is really what is required to meet our, it's an award-winning best practices document in terms of the information that it contains and the order that it's presented. So from the executive summary to the organizational section, talks a lot about our goals to, so that anybody who doesn't know PPS at all could pick up this book and have a really good idea about where our resources come from and how we spend them. Volume 2 is optional, but it's a really pretty vital part of the review for this community. There's a school summary page, there's a heat map of estimates cost per students and some school comparisons, and then a page-by-page individual school report that has a ton of information. So we will have those available for you prior to the budget being proposed. And those links go to our current year document if you want something to look at. That basically will use the same format and it will just be updated for 26, 27. And this is a little bit more granular. I'm not going to go into that. Our budget calendar and activities, again, there's been a slight change. We'll have a meeting on May 12th and then a budget committee again on May 13th. That was a change to our calendar. I think we have a resolution later tonight that has that change for you guys to approve. Okay.
Up this slide?
Yeah.
Last year we had a budget listening session, and I'm not sure I'm seeing that on here.
We have a budget hearing.
It's just not on here. Not on this table. Okay, great. Thanks.
Great. It is May 13th on this table. And that's,
Oh,
it's
that's
listed
it.
as a
Okay, I
committee
see.
meeting.
The committee meeting took me by surprise. Okay, instead of listening session. Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you for the clarification. I just want to point us all back to our custom interactive engagement tool that we shared before. Hopefully the link is working for everyone, and I hope that you are able to forward that and share. I feel that information in the community so that people really have a clear idea of proportionality as we move through this big chunk of budget reductions. I think this is really going to raise the understanding. All right, and I do want to thank folks who have reached out to me for kind of some one-to-one interactive sessions. I'm a resource to you. I want to make sure that you're feeling grounded in the information that we're sharing and in our next steps, because I know folks are looking to you as key communicators and being able to answer questions. So thank you, and I'm open to more of that.
Can I ask a quick question?
Should we go in order for questions? I think I'm first, but I'm good. So Vice Chair DePass.
Yeah, thank you. I had a couple of questions. One is about the fund balance, and I'm concerned about increasing that over time. Is asking the superintendent as well. I'm wondering process-wise if we could take a vote to increase that contingency. I know right now it's kind of at the floor. We voted to go down to 5%. When can we start building that back up? Maybe not this year, but maybe in 27, 28. That's one of my questions. The other one was about whether the Texas Hold'em is it shareable? It is. Okay, great.
Yeah, I think that our goal is to have some sort of savings so that we can respond to emergencies. And I think bit by bit, I think is our goal. I think you all can change thresholds whatever works for you all as a board. But I do know that Michelle and I are definitely like-minded in being more conservative with spending and budgeting so that we can prepare for or be prepared when emergencies happen.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for that question. It is a really challenging thing to do while we're facing a budget deficit. So I'm hoping that we can do some course correcting over the next couple of years.
I just have, I have two questions. Neither of them are like exactly germane to everything you talked about, but one of the things you mentioned was that there's like agreed upon timelines with labor for, I'm not even sure, there's like a word for it where like you get your assignment for next year or whatever, and like sometimes you find out that you aren't assigned, like for teachers with less seniority or whatever. When is that process playing out? Do we know yet? Because I imagine when that happens, we'll hear about it.
It's currently happening. Okay. We're preparing for it now for notices to go out.
Okay. The other thing is, I'm always curious the percent of our budget that goes to cover PERS costs. Do we know? And I've heard estimates, but I'm curious if you feel like you know more now.
Yeah, out of an $868 million budget this year, about $110 million is going to PERS.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm good. I thank you for the one-on-one date we have coming up so I can ask questions.
Yeah.
Yeah. Same here. You've answered a lot of my questions one-on-one. I appreciate it. And are you hoping to do that PERS thing that you do soon?
I would really like to give you the PERS presentation very soon.
You want to do it, I know.
I do.
Have time. Okay. I'd really like to look at it.
Maybe not at 9:30.
No, not.
Nope. Director LaForte?
Yeah, just a quick question. First of all, thank you for the budget one-on-one. Thoroughly enjoyed it. For the budget book components, Volume 1 and Volume 2, Volume 2 is optional, but I feel like it's probably one of the most cited documents within the PPS community. When it says, that means it's legally optional, right? But we're going to do it because
that is correct.
Okay.
I have seen
I
the
just want to make
draft.
sure we do it because I love that document. Okay.
No questions, but I'm emailing you right now to set up a time for us to talk about the budget.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you for the presentation. We'll be in communication about when to schedule the PERS. Yeah, go ahead.
Actually, it's a question of you because you have mentioned, maybe it's different, but that unassigning thing, I've heard you mention before that we're not aligned with other districts, so it sometimes makes it hard for teachers. Is that the same thing?
It's slightly different. So one that has to do with the union contract, the agreement contract, in terms of when people are unassigned, and then there's an internal round when people can apply. And traditionally, because that process often takes longer than most districts, that new job postings don't happen until later in the year compared to other districts.
Thank you.
Right? And so like oftentimes again, in a normal year, not these crazy budget cut years, but oftentimes other districts will post their jobs in February, but PPS won't be until like April. That has somewhat been alleviated, I think, recently with some changes in the last contract. But it's still, I think we are still a little later. But again, it's been like crazy budget, so I don't think we have anything normal to compare in the last like 2-3 years. Does that answer the question? Okay. Is there anything else? Thank you. Like I said, I'll reach out about scheduling that wonderful PERS presentation. All right, next up is the board committee and conference report. Before we go to the reports, I want to propose a change in practice. One of the awesome things about, no, let me rephrase that. I think it's awesome that we included our public comment time especially to twice a month. The downside of that is that it does kind of squeeze our agenda and our in time, and I'm sure everyone here would love to not be here till like 11 p.m. So I am proposing that in starting next board meeting that committee and conference reports be written up and uploaded into board books for us to read. And then you do not have to, unless you want to, mention highlights during the board meeting. So does that work? Yeah. I see lots of nods. Thank you. And if you want to do that today and say, hey, I'll just email this to the rest of you, or no, because it does have to be. If you want to upload to the next board meeting and don't want to give that presentation today, that is also totally okay with me as well. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
All right. I think because we do want it to be on the public record, so we want to upload it onto board books. So, but I want to propose that if you're comfortable doing that and you don't want to present tonight, that you could upload to board books for our next meeting in 2 weeks. But if you were prepared to give something tonight, I'd totally give it tonight.
I love that you're thinking about efficiency, because that'll be important as we move forward. So I'm going to choose to upload my report.
Thank you. Director Fort?
I love this idea, and I just wanted to share a hot tip. I asked Roseanne a couple months ago when I was getting ready to prepare one of my reports she was able to have the transcript of the meeting downloaded. So instead of watching the meeting back over and stop, start, I could just look at the transcript and just easily find what I was looking for. So I was just going to suggest that if Roseanne would be so inclined to do that. It was extremely helpful to just crank through it. So I just wanted to share that.
Thank you. Another tool in the arsenal. Thank you. If you like, yes. Yeah. Unless you feel like there's something that needs to be said today.
Mine is so fast that I'm just going to give it. The Bond Accountability Committee hasn't had a regular meeting between the last time I gave a presentation and now, but the group did meet to literally go through the charter and decide on recommendations for their charter revisions. They will be adopting those, I believe, at the next meeting, and then we then get them from there. So just know that that's coming down the pipeline. Thanks. That was shorter than typing it up and posting it.
And I do just want to say one thing on my report, and this is for Virginia. We haven't finalized our May 7th meeting, but I think you're coming, right? You're planning to. Okay, thank you.
I would just like to say very quickly that I love that idea in the interest of current and future student representatives who have school the next mornings. That is very helpful, especially so that more student reps can stay through the end of the meeting, especially into that other business, because sometimes stuff comes up there.
Yes, thank you. And also student representatives may want to also propose things for the future meeting.
And I think I heard you say that if we wanted to, obviously I'm not a committee chair right now, but if we wanted to give a hot update quickly, we still have that opportunity. Okay.
Exactly, right. I leave it up to the board chairs to do, the committee chairs to do what they want. It's just another way to kind of make it more efficient. Yeah. Or if you want to upload it and just give like the highlight. Yeah. Thank you. With that, let's go ahead and move on to our consent agenda. So now we are considering our consent agenda. Board members, if there's any item in the consent agenda you would like to pull for a separate discussion, please indicate that now. Ms. Bradshaw, are there any changes to the consent agenda?
Yes. Resolution, let me double check. I'm sorry, I wasn't ready for that. I should have been. It was at 7294, was withdrawn earlier today.
7294.
It is not in board book. It was the dismissal of a contract educator.
I don't even see it.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion and a second to adopt the consent agenda as amended?
I'll move.
Thank you. Director Engelsman moves.
Second.
Thank you. Director LaForte seconds the adoption consent agenda. Is there any public comment on the consent agenda?
No.
Thank you. Any board discussion on the consent agenda?
No, just an appreciation for staff, because in that little column on the far right on our there where we can check whether there's a minority-owned business or a woman-owned business, I noticed that there were some women-owned businesses, and wanted to say it would be great if there were some minority-owned businesses. So it's an increase in participation, and I love that. So thank you.
All right, thank you. The board will now vote on resolutions 7292, 7293, 7295, and 7297. All in favor, please indicate by saying yes.
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 Yes. Opposed? Abstentions? Student Representative Retorto?
Yes.
Thank you. The consent agenda as amended is approved by a vote of 7-0 with Student Representative Retorto unofficially voting yes. Thank you. Next up, we have the next step in future board meeting topics. Board members, if there's any items you would like to discuss or have on a future topic, please indicate that now.
Can we just, what do we need to do to make sure the ones we talked about before are good to go? Do we just, they're done, or we're good? Or do we need to do something?
If I said that's on the agenda, yeah.
Okay.
Which ones are you?
Let's
just double check which ones are you referring to.
The work session conversation on looking at Virginia, the red version of the resolution from before, to take that and start building that based on public input into our next resolution, not voting on that resolution at that meeting, but discussing it.
Okay.
And then we also talked about talking about the process.
Yes, I added that.
Resolutions,
thank you.
Okay, I didn't know if we needed to do more than just have you say yes. So
I guess the question is then, for the red version, the amendments proposal, which committee would be willing to take that into discussion? Would it be policy or I'm thinking policy or TLE?
Well, wait,
correct?
I thought we were just talking about putting it on the work session agenda.
Oh, put it on the work session.
for
Because it's so like a committee of the whole.
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. It's almost done.
Yes, I'll look into putting on the work session. Director Sullivan?
Yeah. I would like to request an agenda item for our next board meeting. I would like the board to have an open discussion about putting a pause on Foundation Policy 7.20.010-P, which restricts local foundations and establishes a district-wide foundation. Due to the immediacy of the policy's implementation, the district-wide foundation was not given enough time and resources to create a fund comparable to what was raised by local foundations. Although the fund has now hired a competent and enthusiastic director who is making inroads into establishing the fund that was imagined by the policy, he needs time to get it funded and operating at the level needed to support our schools. We are facing budget constraints for the next few years. A temporary pause on the amendment would allow school foundations to raise money, some of which will be allocated to the fund as in the past, and will help it grow into the fund imagined by its supporters. Remember that this year's successful tutoring program in many schools was funded with foundation dollars. Although the policy change was made to support equity, it is important that we look at intent versus impact. The intent of the rule change was to make things more equitable. Instead, it has negatively impacted all students. We had put too much hope in the legislature and not enough work into establishing a new fund base. We are a new board facing a new reality, a harder reality than what we were facing when this change was made. We need to back up and take a fresh look at what is possible to support our current situation. I want to quote from an email that I received today, which expresses this situation perfectly. Parents want to help, but they need to see that their contributions will make a real difference. Right now, that trust is not there. A pause is not about going backward. It is about preventing further loss while a stronger, more effective transition plan is developed. Without action, we risk losing both funding and community engagement. With a thoughtful transition, we can rebuild both. I encourage you to vote to engage in a discussion about a possible pause at our next board meeting. And I understand that if 3 of us want it brought up for an agenda item, we can do that. So I hope there are 3 people who want to do that.
Yes, I think let's have some time to discuss some questions first, and then we'll go and take a vote on how many people want to add that to agenda. And I'll also do that the same for the other recommendations as well.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Let's just start with this one because it's the most recent. And we're talking about foundations. Let me ask the board, do you want to go in a row again, or do you want to just have it popcorn and talk about it?
I don't know that I want to have a conversation about whether, I just want to put this on, like, to decide whether to put this on a future agenda rather than have a conversation right now about it.
That was my understanding as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
That
Yeah,
it's
that's all I
just,
wanna
this is
do.
your
Like,
request is to put it on next agenda.
The next agenda.
And-
Because I think we need to get it, if we're going to do it, we need to do it soon.
And we have a process for putting things on the agenda that considers all the other things. So if there's room on the agenda, yeah.
Does anybody who would like discussion? Let me just clarify. You're asking for a discussion on pausing the foundation policy to be put on the next agenda.
Yes,
Thank you. Not a resolution, but discussion.
a discussion at the
Okay.
next meeting.
Got it.
Yeah, and
Okay.
possibly a resolution could come from that discussion, but mainly a discussion to see where we are.
Okay.
I have a question about the timing. Does it have to happen by the end of this year, or is there some urgency?
I
mean,
feel
other
that
than
if we
having
want-
a $50 million budget deficit.
Well, there are a lot of people who are have their fundraising times right now. And if they know they're raising for a foundation, they're going to raise a whole lot more money, which will put a whole lot more money into the fund because a percentage of what they raise goes into the fund. So as far as getting more money, I think the sooner the better.
I just had a question, or maybe a clarification. I just wanted to make sure that that members because the fund for PPS has a board, I believe, and then also the director. I just wanted to make sure that they were that they presented during this, because I would not feel comfortable voting on this any sort of way without I would not vote yes on this. I mean, I don't like it to begin with, but there's a chance I would be convinced if people on the board and if the director said this is what needs to happen in no uncertain words. So I just wanted to make sure that was out there for next meeting.
Yeah, and the leader of the fund for PPS will be in part of that discussion, and he knows I'm presenting this
Yeah,
tonight.
the executive director is actually here.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
Hi.
Talking about you.
So I don't know if you want.
And by the way, I just gave money to the Fund for PPS and wrote all sorts of letters today to friends. So this doesn't mean we don't keep supporting the Fund for PPS.
All right, let's go ahead, take a vote. How many people would like the foundation discussion to be on the next, or hopefully the next agenda or a future agenda, or as soon as possible?
I do.
1, 2, and 3. Okay. All right, it is on. All right, let's go down the list, or backwards actually. Let's take I guess let's just do hands. How many people want to have a work session on the red version, the amendments for the resolution? I don't even know what to call it. The Growing Great Schools Resolution Part 2. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
I would
it's
say
plenty.
I would say yes once our community engagement's done for this phase 3. In other words, that wraps up on the 27th.
That's my caveat as well.
Okay.
I think our next meeting is on the 28th.
On the 28th.
Right, but if we wrap up our community engagement on the 27th, then you need, as a person that used to compile this stuff, you need a little bit of time, a few days, for staff to take in what's been heard and put it in digest it So I would say maybe not on the 28th, but as soon as possible afterwards, to allow staff to compile everything that wrapped up on the 27th.
So then, just to be clear, we would then have like a month before we would then vote on the second resolution. As long as people are comfortable with that, I guess.
I just want to make sure that the voices that we hear from the community, these additional engagements that we're making an intentional go to, are that we're able to incorporate that feedback in a way that's digestible for the board.
Yeah, I get what you're putting
not
down.
to have just a one-day turnaround. So actually the engagement's happening on the evening, a Monday evening on the 27th. Our board meeting's on the 28th. It just doesn't allow enough time to even make a table or do the administrative work.
I was just imagining we would be having that initial discussion, and then we would be moving toward the next board meeting to like adopt something. But you're
agree.
suggesting we wait till that second board meeting and then the third one to adopt
Yeah,
something.
to allow the
Okay.
work to actually be completed in a form that's digestible for all of us.
The soonest board meeting after the 27th, April 27th, when the last engagement session is finished up, would be May 12th. So 2 weeks.
What if we received, that feels like a long time away. What if we received the information as we go? I mean, we already had one. We have one on Monday. Can we get synthesized feedback along the way? I mean, we're there. But can we, I don't know why we couldn't get feedback along the way.
I don't know the work plans of staff, so I would not feel comfortable like directing them to give us something a day after our engagement ends. And it does feel like a long way, but it's really like 2 meetings.
It's a month. I feel like we could get started in 2 weeks with the information we have.
I mean, we could probably
it's a month. You're right.
get started, but if we want to include information that we receive at the last engagement, that data has to be analyzed, and then we have to have the time with it to think about whether there's anything there that we want to incorporate into this, just as we'll have to do that with the data from the other sessions. And I don't think that a day gives us enough time. I also think, I mean, a month is like so fast. It's just, and then I think by doing, I mean, we can still work on incorporating data from other sessions along the way, but 1 day turnaround won't give us time to incorporate anything meaningfully from the last session.
I'll just say this, like statistically, the chances are that we will already have our curve, right? We'll already have heard from, we'll be able to identify themes that come out in the data. But if we're doing intentional outreach in North Portland, Northeast Portland, whatever that means, we're going to do it because it's easier for people to get to, then we want to actually be intentional about not speeding through the work, but actually doing, I would rather have it done well than fast. That's just me.
Yeah.
And I used to compile these data, and so you can get a whole spreadsheet of data, and you can analyze it all day for 8 hours, and you can, in that 8 hours, you can pull out themes, you can pull out things that you didn't hear very much, you can graph it out, but that I couldn't guarantee that if we close up our process on the 27th, we would have that analysis on the 28th. It feel like it'd be rushing staff, rather than giving them an extra 2 weeks to do an excellent job rather than a rushed job.
How about,
that leads into another question about, we heard that there's a best practices for the work that is around 7 months. So I know that I'm contradicting myself, but I'd rather have the analysis done correctly. So we're operating on correct assumptions and what we've actually heard. And that's just going to take, I think, a few more weeks.
Can I add something real quick? I'll be fast. As someone from North Portland, and representing the families of North Portland in this work, I think we are very used to hearing the district talk about equity and hearing boards talk about equity and then not actually practicing equity. So if we say that equity is a concern and we're going to North and Northeast Portland because we want to hear from those families and that's important to ensure an equitable outcome, then we have to take the time to analyze what we get from those communities and to incorporate it into this work in a meaningful way and in a way that is on par with the way that other communities' contributions are being heard and considered and cared for. And we will not arrive at an equitable outcome if we prioritize speed over doing the work well. I don't think a month is a long time in a 7 to 12 month process, especially when we have the stated goal of equity. And that's actually like, it all comes back to my initial issue with passing this tonight, is taking the time to ensure that equity is not just being written down on a piece of paper, but is actually being performed in a way that shows due respect to the families and students of North and Northeast Portland.
Great. Yeah, I don't have any problem with everything you just said. I totally agree. My suggestion might be, I was actually thinking like it'd be nice to talk about it while it's fresh on our minds. So what if instead of having the discussion on the resolution language, we at least have like a space where we can kind of talk about our own takeaways from that experience. So while it's all fresh on our mind, we can discuss. That's what I was thinking. Because I do have issues with recency in my brain. So like if we discuss it after, like right then, I think that would be great for a like fresh discussion, but then we can make it like a 3 meeting timeline instead of delaying and doing a 2 meeting, but we'll just have an open discussion about what we've heard. And then the next time we come, we'll talk about the resolution, and then hopefully the next time we can adopt something. Does that sound like a reasonable compromise to people?
All for discussing and iterating and adding along the way. Like, I don't think the work has to stop tonight and we don't pick it up for another month. Like, I think it should be an ongoing process.
Yeah. And then we don't have to ask staff to prep anything. It's just like our chance to show up and just be like, hey, like what? Just talk amongst ourselves about what we were hearing or what questions we might have for staff before that next meeting comes. Does that sound reasonable to people?
Yeah, so just a clarifying question. Is this for the first resolution or the second?
First resolution passed.
Okay, so this isn't about amending the first one. This is on the second one. Okay, the only thing I would say to the second one is, so though that direction and those guiding principles will allow us to be able to start digging into what schools are rising to the top and be able to get into discussion about what the movement or what some recommendations could look like. So, I think we're going to continue to have a series of engagements over the next 5 months. This initial one was specifically for building out the guiding principles. So I guess if you all are saying, you know, let's have that through this month and then we'll be ready to build guiding principles in May, that sounds great. Anything longer than that is going to delay our ability to get out there and start analyzing and recommending, if that's helpful to know.
I wanted to add one more thing about that analysis, and that's pivot tables. So that allows us to look at what we've heard, the themes by whatever demographics we choose, whether that be geography, race, gender, school community, and I think that that analysis is really important in this process. We want to know if we're hearing from specific geographic school communities, you know, what the themes that are emerging, and I don't know, pivot tables take a long time for me.
And who are not hearing from.
I looked at a schedule just to get back to your question. So what I just attempted to lay out was on April 28th, we just talk about like our reflections, ask questions we have based on those reflections. No staff needs to prepare any sort of anything as far as I'm concerned, just us having a chance to chat amongst ourselves, because we can only do that in public. Yay, which is fine. I mean, transparency is good, but just that's our chance. And then the 12th of May, we would iterate on a resolution, and the 26th of May, we would be ready to adopt something. That's our guiding principles based on community input. That would be by May 26th. Does that feel right? Okay.
Doesn't that feel a little long? Because you wouldn't have guiding principles till the end of May.
It does seem long, but because there's only 3 meetings between now and then, I don't know any other way that we could get that to happen sooner unless there were more board meetings. So.
Can I go? So I guess I think I'm having problems because this red Director LaForte amendment doesn't necessarily feel like, and maybe I'm thinking that our guiding principles are going to be even more narrow than what is proposed here. This feels like to me like a first step towards developing our guiding principles. They involve community engagement. The superintendent shall publish a structured community engagement plan. That's not a guiding principle. That's how we get to our guiding principles, because we have a community engagement program.
Exactly.
And then, right.
We already have the published dates.
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying, like these, no, I get all that. That's what I'm saying. These don't seem like guiding, they don't all seem like guiding principles to me. They seem like guardrails and a structure to our process. And so I foresee another resolution that is what our guiding principles are, because we haven't figured those out yet. We all have some ideas. We've heard communities, some, email things and say things, but those feel like they're going to be even narrower and more specific and exact than this. This feels like the recipe, and then we're going to make a cake.
That's exactly right.
So,
it's supposed to be the framework on which everything else hangs, and I can already see the conversation is already, by the time we get to this,
yeah,
we don't have our timelines, we don't have a framework, we're not.
We have timelines already. I'm so confused. We already have the timelines.
We don't.
Right.
We have 5
We have
community
decks.
engagements.
Right,
We
and then
have-
from that, we build our guiding principles. So do you want more process after these initial ones to set the guiding principles?
The reason for the amendment was to clarify the process. And I said this earlier, that it gave the runway to develop the guiding principles through the community engagement.
So you wanted, I'm sorry, I have to steal this. You wanted between now and the end of May, the equity impact for every possible scenario that we're not even going to have till November.
No, it's referring to, the resolution is for the whole process. It's for growing great schools. Like, these are the things that we would want to see at the end. This is 99% of it we've already discussed, just puts it in a resolution so the public knows what we're doing. They're not watching every board meeting and reading every document. So what we have passed is a resolution saying we're just going to start this process that doesn't speak to, in detail, to community engagement, to timelines, to equity. It doesn't speak to any of this stuff. So we need something. I mean, there are no guiding principles. Is it boundaries? Is it, is it walkable? All the things we talked about
So
this
can
weekend.
we agree that guardrails and guiding principles are two different things?
Yeah.
So I don't think we need to treat them, we don't need to treat them as the same thing. I think the work of guiding principles and guardrails can be moving forward on parallel tracks at the same time. I think that they both need community engagement, but the dates that we're adding, Dr. Armstrong, do those follow the same plan as the initial 3 engagement sessions? Are they intended to fill the same purpose, or are they doing a different aspect of the work?
It's the same purpose, although I heard from the team about some adjustments that needed to be made, heard from some of you, and so it'll feel and look different, but the objective will be the same over the next, I think there's a total of 4 left. Correct, yeah, so.
I wonder about if we have another draft going of a resolution that directly addresses guiding principles that we can be building on and adding to as engagement sessions continue to occur, so that by the time we get the data for the last one, we'll just be adding to something that is mostly already baked. And then this one, I think it's similar. We get to the end of that last engagement process, or whatever event, it's late, and we decide if there's anything that needs to be added or if this is fully cooked and is ready to just be voted on.
Yeah, I like that because we all agreed we liked these. It's not going to change with someone with one more session, but we might find another one that we think was important. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
What if everyone's comfortable with this, what if we had a resolution that is the framework that I'm happy to take this and we could even run through that at our next meeting if we wanted to have our framework, feedback, however, I get it up early so that everybody can take a look at, we have a framework and then our guiding principles are separate versus, so we're still moving forward versus waiting. How would everybody feel about that?
I thought we wanted to hear from community members before we don't want to bake anything.
The framework is just a framework. It's literally.
But don't we want to hear from our community? I mean, this is going to be community-wide impact. So it's that chicken egg.
Yes, but those are the guiding principles.
I think we just need to make a decision. Go to bed. Yeah, go to bed.
I would like to put this on. Do we have 3 who would like to put this on, and then we can talk about it more later?
On May 12th?
I mean, sure. Or April 28th?
I mean, we can bake a time in every session to talk about it. So how about we do that? I mean, which is kind of what Director Split and Director Chase Miller were suggesting. So let's just make time every session to talk about it.
I think the point that I didn't do a good job of making is that everything that's in here was said by community members on Saturday, and it's been said in our emails, and it's been said in phone calls, and it's been said here. And if there's something that's not decision criteria, equity, impact related, community engagement timeline, or financial transparency or policy or alignment related, if there's a A, B, C, D, E, F, if there's a 7th that comes up, this feels like a lot. If there's a random 7th out there, we can always add it. But I think that a lot of what we're going to hear is going to fall under these 6, and so it just kicks off the framework for this and is separate than the guiding principles. And if we get to the December, if we get to the April 27th North or Northeast, and there's something that is outside of this framework, we could add it later. But this is I think a really important framework, and so I would like to talk about it sooner while we're developing our guiding principles. That's why and for sake of timing, I'm just saying, can we just put this on the next agenda? We could run it through staff, we could run it, Dr. Armstrong can look at it more, legal can look at it more, there's more time than being posted yesterday with less time.
How about this? I will create some time next board meeting to continue this discussion. I think there's kind of wide disagreement about the direction, the purpose, the value, and what. And so I think that kind of needs to be baked out. One thing I'm really concerned, I want to add my 2 cents, is that I'm afraid a little bit about the tail wagging the dog, because we have the district staff who have done tons of research about best practices, consulted with other districts about how to do this work and things like that. I'm worried that when it comes to the board, we're kind of the top, but also the last stop. And then if we decide hey, we're going to determine this process, it may go against kind of the natural progression that the staff members that have already been working on this for months and months, we've done a lot of work, and kind of throw a wrench in their process. So I think it's really important to kind of hear what the process is already kind of building out first, and then we adjust in terms of how to best support that work in order to get the best outcome in terms of equity and our guiding principles. So that's my 2 cents on this. But I think that what I am hearing is that there's a lot of disagreement on this. So to satisfy everyone, I will set up some time in the next agenda board meeting to have this discussion. That sound like a decent compromise for the moment?
It does, and I also just want to put out on the table that when we listen to one community at a first stab at community engagement and we base everything on that, that is not producing an equitable outcome, and that's very performative. We already know who was in the room, and we already know we're trying to be intentional about hearing from people in North Portland. Even though, you know, and so anyway, I just want to say that I am really strongly opposed to building a framework based on hearing from our first community engagement, which will look different from the second one because we're taking what we heard and we're making some changes. I want to wait until we're finished hearing from all of the public.
Thank you. I think for the sake of time, I want to conclude the discussion. How many people are wanting time on the April 28th meeting to have continuing discussion on this process? So more than 3. There we go. All right, April 28th. Next one is PERS. Again, this is something that Chief Morrison will have to produce. So there, I can't demand a timeline, but how many people would like to have the PERS come? Okay, more than on a future agenda. We have enough. Okay, plenty. Great. And then last one, resolutions, discussions about them, and informational process. Thank you. How many people want that on a future agenda? Okay, thank you. Just about resolutions, discussions about resolutions, etc. Great. I think we have a full meeting soon. Okay, go ahead.
We're like, we're not done.
Director Engelsman.
I wanted to discuss, so after our Division 22 presentation last fall, I requested more information about the senior schedules. I know you guys have heard me bring this up multiple times. After noticing that about 1/3 of our seniors are fully scheduled, so I know some probably understand what that means, but just so, you know, we've got 8 periods in a day. Fully scheduled means that you have, you know, 8 periods, and one of those can be a study hall. So it means you're in school all day. So 2/3 of our seniors are not fully scheduled. And staff provided a breakdown that's in our board question tracker that shows by school how many students are taking 8 periods, inclusive of a study hall, 7 periods, 6 periods, 5 periods, and it's a lot. But what it doesn't show is what the exemptions are. So the state-approved exemptions are things like, you know, on track to graduate, internships, you know, work-based learning things. There's a very specific list. My concern, after looking back on like 4 years of this data, is that we've created a system that is not only encouraging reduced schedules for our seniors, but it's relying on them financially to keep the price basically of our high school education down because we can't afford the teachers. Like if we were to actually tell the majority of our seniors, you need to take 8 periods a day, these are, you know, your minimum instructional requirements, that we wouldn't be able to afford it. And it's a particular concern to me. It already was, but especially now as we're heading into budget season, because that initial pass at the budget, if you click through in the budget document, has half of the $50 million coming out of our high schools, and a lot of it already is. So it makes me nervous, and if it were affecting just a small number of students, I wouldn't raise it, but we're talking about the majority of our seniors, and I feel like it's something we need visibility to. Like what are the reasons we're exempting students from, we don't know. So I'm hoping that you guys are open to that discussion. There's a lot of students coming to school a period late, leaving a period early, and we have no visibility as to why.
I'm open to it.
Okay. So let's see. Is there any other questions about? I'll just summarize this Division 22 senior schedule. Budget.
Yeah, and take a look at the tracker. You'll see what I'm talking about. It's a great document that staff pulled together. It was exactly what I was looking for, and it's also broken down by DLL, SPED versus non-SPED, so you can see of those students, how many are SPED students that aren't getting a full day versus, you know, how many non-SPED students, and you can see, you know, if there's I haven't gone that deep in it, but you can see if there's any patterns.
I'd rather see it on a TLE agenda, just because I'm trying to figure out how we can use our committees better, and it seems like a good space for that conversation personally. But
Ditto. I agree.
Would you open it? Okay, great. Let's do it.
Okay, so it's on the TLE agenda. Director, or potentially, Director Engelsman.
Yes, I have one last thing. I will try to be brief. I should have brought it up last time when we were voting on the furlough days, but I think we all got an email from somebody about Earthstock, which I didn't know about. However, I've learned about it, and it falls on May 1st. And so I was doing some researching right now, which is why it seemed so unprofessional when my phone started talking, because I was trying to find the social media post I saw this week about the fact that because Earthstock, which as I understand it is, I think the email called it a prom for our SPED students, it falls on May 1st. And then the social media post that I saw said kids can still go, but they have to have an adult to go with them. And so if kids don't have an adult who could bring them, they no longer have that opportunity because they're not in school. And so I guess I'm just hoping that we can figure out a way. It sounds like Earthstock, it happens at Crystal Ballroom. It incorporates a lot of different counties and school districts, even Washington, Vancouver comes. It's a big deal for kids, and PPS SPED students now perhaps are not all going to be able to go. It's a vital community celebration, over 800 guests. Kids apparently get their nails done, they get their hair done, they really feel proud. And then I was reading on Earthstock's website about it all started when a kid who was wheelchair bound and didn't feel like he could participate in his dances went and like had the time of his life. And so I guess I just wanted to figure out a way that we can help kids who are now.
I brought it up before we had this come up, and I was reassured that we would make sure that these kids could go. So I see him coming up, but I would like to make sure that.
Yeah,
I brought it up as well in our last meeting.
Yeah, I just didn't bring it up at a public meeting, but I brought it up behind closed doors and heard that we would be doing all we could to make sure that those kids could still go. So.
Yeah, excuse me. No. Good evening. Yes, we are working with our staff on creating opportunities for students to participate. It's some of what you brought up related to how the dance is formed is it's a little more specific and it addresses the needs of a population of students. It's not all special education. And it's an amazing, important event for our community, and we are working hard to provide access. It's technically difficult to figure out a solution for it because many of our kids are dependent on specific staff because of the needs of the students and the staff that are trained to provide and support for those needs. And so we're in conversation with the labor partners and with, and specifically our staff to see how to enable it to happen. And so we're hoping to have that solved here pretty soon. Some of the communication has come directly from this event, and they are, of course, reaching out to families and just saying, hey, regardless of what happens, we can still host, which we appreciate that they're doing that, but we're still working on making it accessible.
So there was a post on social today that showed communication, I believe it was from PPS to the family of one of these parents that said that it's not happening.
I can tell you that I have not sent out communication to anybody in this district that said it is not happening, and it would have come from me. So I'm not entirely sure where that or how that occurred. I did see a post from one of our family members who I work closely with who was just concerned in relationship to us being able to support it because it is a furlough day and our staff are not required to work, which is where the difficulty that it comes into when I need somebody who has specific training related to the support of a student. And so anyway, we're working through those issues to ensure that kids have the opportunity to go.
Thank you. Can I propose that maybe instead of like an agenda item, this could be like an email update? So when there is an update, to get an email about the current status or what's happening and things like that. Does that sound, just for sake of efficiency?
Yeah, that sounds great. And then if there is no email update by the 28th, that we would just assume it'll be a verbal update on the 28th at the meeting, so that so that we get something. Yeah.
Can I ask who hosts it? Like who's?
It's not a school district any school district organized event. It's a private group of folks who have put it together, and how it became named or stuck, I'm not sure.
Thanks. Can I just say one more thing? I was getting emailed back and forth by somebody who was speaking with authority and works at the district that was saying there's no way someone can be paid on a furlough day. And they wouldn't, and I had heard that no, they could be paid on a furlough day, that you guys were thinking about how to work it out, working with labor partners, because that was what I was told by, I don't even know who I talked to about it. I brought it up like to somebody. Anyway, so I think there's also, and the person was like willfully telling me I was wrong. So I'm just thinking there's also maybe some people that like have a certain belief that do work at the district, that might be the district same person even that was telling me there was no way that it could work. So
yeah,
just saying that person somewhere works here, and that person could be the same person who's posting. So
I appreciate that. I think that our Senior Director of Special Education, Dr. Charles, has been in communication with our staff and our building leaders about where we're at in this right now. But thank you, so that we can help folks understand that we're still working on creating a solution. So.
All right. How many people would like the email update and or verbal update by the 28th? Okay, that's enough. Great. Got it. Is there anything else? All right. With that, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here.